Story 1. Send me $3,000 for prom, my sister said. I replied, earn it yourself. A few minutes later, my parents texted, pay or get out of this family. That night, I pressed, cancel, cancel, cancel everything. By 8:30 the next morning. Hey Reddit, Dylan here. Figured I'd finally share a story that's been sitting with me for a while. The kind that starts with family drama and ends with a reality check I didn't see coming. It's not one of those sappy forgiveness tales either. Just a guy realizing that sometimes helping turns into being used. Buckle up. This one got messy. I, Dylan, 35 male, run my own small business, doing all right for myself. Nothing fancy, but I built it from the ground up. No handouts, no shortcuts. Which is probably why what happened that morning pissed me off as much as it did. I was in the middle of a client call when my phone started buzzing like it was trying to self-destruct. I ignored it once, twice, and then again. By the fifth buzz, I thought something had caught fire somewhere. I glanced down, saw my sister's name Lexi, and immediately rolled my eyes. She's 18, senior year, and the kind of person who treats every minor inconvenience like a national crisis. I let the call go to voicemail thinking I'd deal with it later. Then a text popped up. Send me $3,000 for prom. I actually laughed, out loud, during the meeting. My business partner looked at me like I was losing it. I thought maybe she added an extra zero by mistake or it was some stupid joke. So I texted back, you mean $300, right? Nope. She hit me with, no, $3,000. Dress, limo, nails, photos, spa for my skin, hair. I want it to be perfect. I just stared at my phone for a full 30 seconds. $3,000. For a high school dance? I could throw a decent weekend trip for that money and still have cash left for steak. I typed back, you've officially lost your mind. Get a job and earn it. Simple. Direct. End of conversation, right? Wrong. Within a few minutes, my phone lit up again. This time, it wasn't her. It was my mom. Your sister's worked so hard this year. Don't be selfish. Help her. Then my dad. Pay for her prom, Dylan. It's the right thing to do. The right thing to do. That phrase has been their favorite line since forever. It basically translates to, do what we say, no questions asked. I put the phone face down on the desk and stared at it like it had just insulted me. I'd helped my family plenty. More than I should have, honestly. Every time they said they were tight on bills or needed a little help, I wired money, no hesitation. But $3,000 for a prom? That wasn't help. That was entitlement with glitter on top. The rest of the day was a blur. I kept checking my phone between tasks, hoping someone would text back an apology or at least an ounce of common sense. Nothing. Just silence. Around noon, I got a voicemail from my sister. I didn't even need to hit play. I knew exactly how it'd sound. Whiny, guilt-trippy, dramatic. I still listened anyway, because I'm a glutton for punishment. Her voice blasted through the speaker. You're so selfish, Dylan. It's just prom. Why can't you help me for once? For once. I nearly dropped the phone. For once? I've been paying their bills for years. I'm the one who helped after Dad stopped working. I deleted the voicemail halfway through. By 3, I was too irritated to focus. I closed my laptop and sat there replaying the whole thing in my head. My sister's tone, my parents' texts, all of it screamed one thing. They expected me to say yes. Not hoped, not asked, expected. That's what got under my skin the most. Somewhere along the line, helping turned into obligation. They didn't see me as family anymore. They saw me as an open wallet with Wi-Fi. I tried calling my mom just to clear the air. She answered on the second ring, voice already laced with attitude. Are you done ignoring your sister? She snapped. I took a breath. Mom, I'm not paying $3,000 for a high school dance. That's ridiculous. You can afford it, she shot back. You own your own business. It's not like you're struggling. And that doesn't mean I'm financing a circus, I said. She's 18. She can get a part-time job. You don't talk to your family like that, she hissed. We're struggling, Dylan. You have no idea what we've been through. Struggling? I said, half laughing. Then why does she need a designer dress and a limo? Silence. Then she hung up. Not a single, we'll talk later. Just click. Then Dad followed up with, pay for your sister's prom or don't bother calling yourself part of this family. I just stared at the screen, stunned. That wasn't a request. That was a threat. The kind of thing you'd expect from some manipulative ex, not your own parents. I sat there trying to process the audacity of it. After everything I've done for them, all the bills, the so-called emergencies, the times I covered their mistakes, and they still had the guts to throw family in my face like it was some kind of weapon. 5 minutes later, Dad texted again. You're supposed to help. Don't make this harder than it has to be. That one sat in my head for hours. Don't make this harder. Like I was the problem. Like me saying no was some betrayal of the family code. I sat there staring at those messages, the word family bouncing around in my head like a bad echo. It didn't feel like love anymore. It felt like a transaction. For the first time, I started wondering if all my help over the years had just turned into their expectation. Looking back, I probably should have seen it coming. My family's been running on favoritism since my sister learned how to talk. She was the baby, the miracle child, born years after me. The surprise they treated like royalty. I was just the warm-up act. Everything I did was expected, but everything she did was special. That was the pattern. I worked hard. She got praised. I achieved things. She got celebrated. When I got my first full-time job, my parents said, "That's nice. Just don't forget to help us when we're older." When she got her first social media sponsorship for posting makeup videos, they said, "She's going places." It was always like that. Me grinding to prove I was capable. Her getting rewarded just for existing. And the older we got, the worse it got. When she turned 16, my parents surprised her with a used convertible. When I turned 16, I was mowing lawns to save for a secondhand laptop. My mom called it building character. Apparently, I was full of character by the time I hit adulthood. Then came Dad's stroke. I still remember the phone call. Mom's voice was trembling. He collapsed at work. They said it's mild, but he won't be able to go back full time. My gut twisted. No matter how messed up our dynamic was, he was still my dad. I drove straight to the hospital, stayed there for days, handling whatever needed handling. That's where things shifted. Guilt is a funny thing. It can make you do stupid stuff in the name of family. When Dad got discharged, their finances were a mess. Mom couldn't keep up with bills, the mortgage, medical costs. I stepped up. I opened a joint family account with me, listed as the primary holder after Dad's stroke. The bank let me add them as joint users, but since the account was technically tied to my SSN, any large external transfers needed my approval. I figured it was safer that way. I told them, "This is for necessities only. Bills, groceries, medication. That's it." For the first year, I kept an eye on everything. Every withdrawal was small and reasonable. $80 for groceries, $120 for electricity, $200 for Dad's checkups. I felt good about it, like I was doing the right thing. I wasn't rich, but my business was finally doing well, and I wanted to take care of them. That's what a decent son does, right? Then life got busy. My business took off. I started managing bigger clients, and I stopped checking the account as much. I trusted them. They'd shown they could handle it responsibly, so I eased off. Big mistake. Slowly, things started to feel off. My sister began posting pictures online. Expensive outfits, fancy brunches, weekend getaways with friends. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she had a job I didn't know about. Maybe my parents were giving her small allowances. But then Mom started calling more often, always with some vague story. "We had another unexpected expense, honey. Can you help us out this month?" "What expense?" I'd ask. "Oh, just bills." Always bills. Never any specifics. And Dad, he barely talked anymore. Every time I tried asking what was going on, he'd deflect. "Your mom's handling it," he'd say, voice flat. Or, "It's under control." I told myself not to overthink it. They'd been through enough. Dad couldn't work. Mom was probably stressed. And my sister was young. I kept sending money when they asked. Sometimes I'd ask how the account was doing, and Mom would say, "We're careful, don't worry." But I did worry. I just didn't act on it. Looking back, I think I didn't want to know the truth. I wanted to keep believing I was doing something good, that I was the responsible one, holding things together while they tried their best. The idea that they might actually be taking advantage of me was too ugly to process. But things kept stacking up. The calls for money came more frequently. The explanations got vaguer. My sister's lifestyle somehow got flashier, even though she didn't have a job. The math didn't add up, but I ignored it. When you grow up being the problem solver, you start confusing being used with being needed. It's embarrassing to admit it now, but I think part of me liked being the dependable one, the one who could fix things, the one they turned to. It made me feel like I finally mattered in a family that never really saw me unless they wanted something. And yeah, maybe that's why I didn't notice sooner. Because deep down, I didn't want to believe they were taking advantage of me. I wanted to believe they were just struggling, that helping them was the right thing. Turns out, it was just the convenient thing for them. So yeah, call it stupidity, call it denial, whatever you want. I ignored every red flag because I didn't want to face the reality that my family didn't need saving. They just needed someone willing to pay the price for their comfort. And for years, that someone was me. The next morning, I was back at work, trying to get my head straight. I told myself I'd ignore their messages, focus on clients, and move on. Then my phone buzzed with that specific tone I hadn't heard in a long time. My bank alert. I looked down and froze. Alert. Pending external transfer. $5,000. Because I was the primary account holder, the bank froze the transfer and sent me a confirmation alert. I hadn't seen one of those in years. For a second, I thought I misread it. Then I saw the time. 8:42 a.m. Less than 24 hours after my sister demanded $3,000 for prom. My pulse jumped. I'd set that alert years ago to notify me about any withdrawal over $2,500. It was a security measure I completely forgot existed. And now, suddenly, it was flashing at me like a warning siren. I opened my banking app and stared at the pending notification. $5,000. From the joint family account. It wasn't processed yet, just sitting there, waiting for confirmation. My gut twisted. I hadn't touched that account in months, since the account was technically under my name. Any big transfer like that needed my manual approval. They could swipe their debit cards freely for everyday stuff, groceries, gas, whatever. But this was different. It meant someone had tried to send money out of the account completely. Either way, I wasn't about to just hit approve. I called my sister first. She picked up after the second ring, sounding like she'd just woken up. Morning, I said, voice flat. You try to move $5,000 out of the family account? What? She mumbled. No, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Lex. I got a notification. $5,000 pending transfer. I didn't do anything, she said quickly, her tone flipping from sleepy to defensive. Ask Mom. So you have no idea about this? No, she snapped. And stop accusing me of stuff. You're being paranoid. Yeah, I said. Funny how paranoid always ends up being right in this family. She huffed. You're ridiculous, and hung up. Typical. Next up, Mom. I didn't even want to call, but I had to. She answered on the first ring, already in her sweet but manipulative tone. Dylan, how are you? Cut it, I said. Why is there a $5,000 transfer pending from the joint account? There was a pause. Then she said, Oh, that. Don't worry, it's just something we needed to cover. You can go ahead and approve it. Cover what exactly? I asked. You know, bills, repairs, things like that. Bills don't cost $5,000, Mom. She sighed loudly, like I was the one being unreasonable. Your father's been stressed. Your sister has prom coming up. We're just trying to make things easier. I laughed, but there wasn't a trace of humor in it. So easier means draining the account without asking? Don't be dramatic, she snapped. You act like we're stealing from you. You're not stealing, I said. Watch your mouth, she said coldly. We're family. You wouldn't even have that business if we hadn't supported you. Supported me? I repeated. You mean the moral support of constant guilt tripping? Dylan, you need to calm down. Approve the transfer and stop making everything a fight. I'm not approving anything until you tell me what it's for. Another pause. Then she said, quieter this time. You'll understand when you see the photos. What photos? Your sister's prom. And that was it. She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone like it had insulted my intelligence. Photos. She wanted me to approve a $5,000 transfer for prom pictures. I refused it immediately. I didn't even bother calling my dad. He'd just echo her nonsense. Your mother's handling it, or don't stress her out. Same script every time. My brain was running in circles. If they were confident enough to request $5,000 in one shot, how many smaller transactions had slipped past me without alerts? I hadn't checked the detailed history in months, maybe years. I needed answers. Real ones. That's when I thought of Sam. Sam's a longtime friend and my go-to whenever something smells fishy. He's a lawyer, sharp as hell, and not the type to sugarcoat things. I shot him a quick text. Hey man, need legal eyes on something? Might be family related. He replied in seconds. That sounds bad already. Come by the office tonight? 6 feet? Perfect, I wrote back. The rest of the day, I couldn't focus on a single thing. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it was another withdrawal. I kept checking the app just to make sure that pending status hadn't switched to approved. It didn't. Not yet. But the timing, the excuses, the casual way Mom talked about it, it all fit too neatly. They weren't panicking because to them, this wasn't stealing. It was normal. It was expected. When 6 rolled around, I drove to Sam's office. He was waiting, sleeves rolled up, sipping coffee like he'd already predicted the mess. What's up? He asked. I laid it all out. The prom text, the guilt tripping, the $5,000 alert. He leaned back. You didn't approve it, right? Of course not. Good, he said. Bring your laptop tomorrow. I'll help you dig through the account history. Let's see what they've been doing. I nodded. Thanks, man. I just, I've got a bad feeling about this. You should, he said. If this isn't their first time, it's going to get ugly. I stopped a $5,000 transfer, but the damage had been happening for a long time. And as I sat there staring at the screen, it hit me. They hadn't just asked for help. They'd built their lifestyle around expecting it. By the next evening, I was done guessing. I drove to Sam's office straight after work, still wearing the same half-ironed shirt from the morning. The whole day had been noise, calls, emails, and that same $5,000 alert sitting in my inbox like a ticking time bomb. I didn't approve it, obviously, but I needed to know what was really going on. No more maybes. When I walked in, he was already behind his desk, sleeves rolled up, glasses low on his nose, staring at his laptop like he was about to cross-examine the bank itself. He nodded at the chair in front of him. You bring the login details? I handed him a folder. Everything's in there. He started typing, his fingers flying across the keyboard. I sat across from him, tapping my foot against the carpet, the silence thick enough to choke on. A few minutes later, he leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the screen. Well, he said slowly, you weren't exaggerating. What do you see? I asked, leaning in. He turned the laptop toward me. Look at this. It's been going on for years. The first few pages looked normal. Small transactions, grocery stores, pharmacies, utility payments. Then the pattern changed. Hundreds turned into thousands. And then there were names that had no business showing up. Jewelry stores, boutique clothing shops, travel agencies, and what looked like a prom event planner. Sam scrolled through the list, his tone even but firm. These charges go back 4 years. Small enough individually that you wouldn't notice, but together, he pulled up the total. We're talking just over $80,000. My chest tightened. I stared at the screen, trying to process the number. $80,000? He nodded. Yep, slow bleed. Probably thought if they kept it under the radar, you'd never check. I rubbed my temples. I feel like an idiot. Honestly, you are, Sam chuckled. But you trusted your family. That's what makes this sting. I've seen many cases like this before. I looked at the breakdown again. Jewelry store charges popped up every few months. Boutique names I didn't recognize. Payments to what looked like a travel agency in Kansas City. Then those tiny, sneaky charges. $300 here, $450 there. Always labeled as household, MISC, or personal expense. Sam kept scrolling. Credit card companies, too. They've been funneling your money to cover their debts. I leaned forward, jaw tightening. So all those times they said they were short on bills or had a medical emergency were lies, Sam said, finishing for me. It hit me hard, but not in the way I expected. I didn't feel sad or broken. I just felt cold, like I'd finally hit the point past disappointment. Sam glanced at me. You want to see the prom thing? I frowned. What do you mean? He highlighted one of the recent transactions. I almost laughed. They didn't even try to hide it. They didn't think they had to, Sam said. They probably assumed you'd never check again. He wasn't wrong. They'd trained me to look the other way, to believe that family helps family meant shut up and pay. I slumped back in the chair, staring at the glowing screen. Over 80 grand, I repeated quietly. That's how much I've basically donated to them. Sam nodded and started printing the records. Each page slid out of the printer with a sharp click, proof of 4 years of manipulation. He handed me a thick stack. I'd keep these safe. You'll need them if things get messy. Messy? I asked. People like that don't just admit they're wrong, he said. They double down. He wasn't wrong about that either. I flipped through the pages, skimming the transactions, the dates, the stores. Every line felt like a slap, a reminder of how blind I'd been. Moms, we had another rough month. Dads, we're struggling to keep up. My sisters, I deserve this. Every word replayed in my head, but now they sounded different. Less like pleas, more like rehearsed lines. All those emergencies? Lies. Every last one of them. I should have felt heartbroken, but I didn't. I was past that. It's like once you see how far someone's willing to go to take advantage of you, the love part just switches off. Inside, I spread the printed papers across my kitchen table like puzzle pieces. Lines of transactions, dates, and charges filled every inch of the surface. Jewelry, boutique, travel, event planner, over and over. It was like watching my own generosity get itemized into luxury goods. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back through old text messages from my mom. We're short this month. Can you help with groceries? The car needs repairs. Every single message now had a dollar sign attached to it in my head. Not one was real. I sat there for hours, just looking at it all. My phone buzzed a few times. Mom, Dad, even my sister. I didn't answer. I was done explaining myself to people who only listened when I was paying their bills. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting even. It was about ending it. By midnight, I had everything stacked neatly in a folder. Every printout, every bank record, every lie documented. I stared at the folder for a long time, then set it by the front door. Tomorrow, I was going to visit them. Not to argue or beg for an explanation, just to end this once and for all. The next morning, I woke up early. Didn't even need an alarm. I barely slept, just kept staring at that folder on the table like it was some kind of loaded weapon. By 7, I grabbed it, got in my truck, and started the drive to my parents' place. Their house sat in a quiet suburban neighborhood, same home sweet home sign they've had since the 90s. The kind of place that looks normal from the outside, but you know the walls have heard a lot of yelling. When I pulled into the driveway, I took a deep breath, grabbed the folder, and walked up to the door. Before I could knock, my mom opened it like she'd been waiting. "Dylan," she said, all tight smile and fake warmth. "Did you finally calm down?" I stepped inside without answering. The air in there felt thick, not just from the stuffy heater, but from tension. My dad was standing near the window, arms crossed, face unreadable. My sister was on the couch, scrolling her phone like she couldn't care less. "Sit down," my mom said. "We need to talk." "Yeah," I said, dropping the folder on the coffee table. "We do." She frowned when she saw the stack of papers. "What's that?" "Proof," I said flatly. Her smile twitched. "Proof of what?" I sat down, spread the papers out slowly. "Let's start with this one. Payments to credit card companies. Over 4 years, you used my money to pay off at least 3 different cards. Then there's the jewelry store charges, the boutique receipts, and oh," I pulled one sheet out and slid it across the table. "The prom planner. That one's new." My sister glanced up from her phone for half a second, then looked back down. Not even a flinch. My mom's face went from pale to red in record time. "How dare you dig through our finances?" she snapped. "That's private." I let out a dry laugh. "Private? It's my account. You think we're stealing from you?" she shot back. "Do you want me to read the totals out loud?" I said, flipping another page. "Because this one here," I tapped the line item. "Want to explain that one?" My dad finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "You're supposed to help us, Dylan. We raised you. You wouldn't even be where you are without us." I turned to him slowly. "You mean the same way I helped when I covered your bills after the stroke? When I paid your mortgage twice? Or when I set up this account to keep things afloat while you said you were drowning?" He looked away, jaw tight. "You don't understand. Debt piles up. We did what we had to do." "Yeah," I said. "You did it with my money." My mom slammed her hand on the table. "You're ungrateful. After everything we've done for you," I cut her off. "Everything you've done for me? You mean the lectures, the guilt trips, and the lies? Every time I sent money, you told me it was for groceries or medical bills. Turns out it was to keep your luxury spending alive." She pointed a shaking finger at me. "We did it for your sister. She deserves a better start than we gave you." I stared at her, genuinely speechless for a second. "A better start? You've already given her everything she's ever wanted. Meanwhile, I had to fight for every inch I got. You didn't even come to my business launch because she had a dance recital." "She's our baby," Mom said, like that excused everything. "She's 18, I said. "She's not a baby. She's rotten spoiled." My sister finally looked up, rolling her eyes. "You're being dramatic," she said, voice dripping with attitude. "It's just money." I turned to her, calm but sharp. "You don't get to say that when it's not your money." She sank back into the couch, muttering something under her breath. I didn't even care what it was. Mom leaned forward, her voice low and trembling. "You think you can just walk in here and judge us? You're not perfect either. You cut us off emotionally. You never visit. You act like you're better than us." I leaned back in the chair, folded my arms, and said, "You're right. I am better than being used. I worked for everything I have. You turned my help into a paycheck. And now you're angry that the ATM finally stopped spitting cash." That shut her up for a second. Dad tried to step in again. "You can't just abandon your family like this, son." I stood up, gathering the papers. "You abandoned me first," I said quietly. "The moment you decided lying was easier than asking." Mom shot up from the couch. "Don't walk out on us, Dylan. You're destroying everything we've built." I paused at the doorway and looked back. "No, Mom. You did that the day you taught my sister that love comes with a price tag." Her face froze. My dad looked away. My sister kept scrolling like nothing happened. And just like that, I knew there was nothing left to say. I walked out the door while they yelled behind me, words like selfish, heartless, and ungrateful echoing through the hallway. None of it stuck. For once, it didn't even hurt. For the first time in years, I felt free. That feeling stuck with me the whole drive home. The yelling, the guilt trips, all of it just faded behind me like static. I didn't feel like a bad son or some heartless jerk. I felt like a guy who'd finally stopped drowning. By the time I got back to my place, I already knew what I needed to do next. The joint account had to go. I logged into the bank and pulled up the same account I'd opened years ago to help them. Because I was the primary holder, closing it was easy. The bank just revoked their access, froze their cards, and wired the remaining balance back to me. Took about 10 minutes to erase 4 years of being their personal ATM. When it was done, I drafted one final text. No long explanation, no speeches, no emotional closure. Just this. Accounts closed. Don't contact me again. I hit send and set the phone down. Didn't even take a full minute for it to start buzzing. First my mom, then my dad, then my sister. The screen lit up like a Christmas tree. Mom's messages came in waves. Dylan, what have you done? You're being cruel. We have bills to pay. Dad's tone was colder. This isn't the way to handle things. You're tearing the family apart. Don't do something you'll regret. Then came my sister, of course. Wow, you're seriously pathetic. You ruined everything for me. I hope you're happy, loser. I watched the messages flood in, one after another. Then I did what I should have done years ago. I blocked them. All of them. Texts, calls, emails, gone. The silence that followed felt almost unreal. For weeks, my phone didn't buzz. No emergencies, no guilt trips, no we're struggling. For the first time in my adult life, I could actually breathe without feeling like I owed someone an apology for being successful. I poured myself into my work. My business grew, clients kept coming in, and my days were quieter. Not peaceful right away, just quiet in that weird way when your brain's still waiting for chaos that never comes. Every once in a while, I'd wonder what they were doing. Not because I missed them. I didn't. But because curiosity's a hard habit to kill. I never reached out, though. I'd made my line clear. About 3 months later, I got my answer anyway. It came from my cousin, Tyler, one of the few relatives who still had a functioning moral compass. He called one afternoon while I was on lunch break. Hey, man, he said carefully. You hear what's going on with your folks? I frowned. No. Why? They, lost the house. I stopped mid-bite. What do you mean, lost it? Foreclosure. Apparently they couldn't keep up with payments. Moved into some small apartment near downtown. I leaned back in my chair. You're kidding, he sighed. Wish I was. They filed for bankruptcy last month. I didn't say anything for a moment. Not because I was shocked, more like because I wasn't. Deep down, I'd seen it coming the whole time. You can only fake stability for so long before reality catches up. Tyler kept talking. Your sister's working now, though. Retail job at one of those clothing chains. First time she's ever had a job, I think. That one actually made me smirk. Guess the prom fund finally ran dry. He let out a short laugh. Yeah, man. Life hit him hard. We talked a few more minutes, mostly small stuff, then hung up. I just sat there for a while after, staring out the window. The sky looked clearer that day. Maybe it was just in my head, but everything felt lighter. They'd burned through all the money. Lost the house they bragged about for years. And the same sister who called me selfish was now folding clothes for minimum wage. I didn't feel joy about it. No part of me was sitting there celebrating their downfall. What I felt was closer to clarity, like the universe finally adjusted its balance sheet. For years, I carried them, convinced myself I was being a good son, that helping them was what family meant. But now, with the noise gone, I realized something simple and ugly. They never wanted me to stand beside them. They just wanted me to hold them up. And the moment I stopped, they collapsed. That's not family. That's dependency dressed up as love. Weeks passed, then months. Life moved on. I started sleeping better, ate better, even found myself laughing more. My business hit new highs because I wasn't constantly bleeding money or energy trying to save people who didn't want saving. Never again. Somewhere in that silence, I realized something I wish I'd understood years ago. Family doesn't mean lifelong debt. It's supposed to be built on love, not obligation. On respect, not manipulation. The moment money became the glue, it stopped being family. So yeah, I lost them. But I gained something better. Myself. Months passed since I walked out of that house. And honestly, I didn't realize how much tension I'd been carrying until it was gone. No late-night guilt calls. No, we're short on bills texts. No fake emergencies. Just silence. The kind that doesn't feel lonely, just peaceful. Every so often, my cousin Tyler would check in with updates. I didn't ask, but he'd tell me anyway, like he was trying to keep me in the loop without dragging me back into it. Then one afternoon, about 8 months after I went no contact, I heard a knock at the door. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. When I looked through the peephole, my stomach dropped a little. There they were, my mom and my sister, standing side by side like they'd practiced the pose. My mom was holding a small bag, like she'd brought something, probably an emotional prop. My sister had her arms crossed, wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy out. I opened the door halfway. What do you want? Mom's smile was tight, rehearsed. Can we come in? We just want to talk. Talking's not usually what you come here for, I said. She sighed, her voice soft. Please, Dylan. We've made mistakes. We just want to fix things. I looked at both of them, trying to read their faces. My sister couldn't even make eye contact. She was scanning my porch like she'd rather be anywhere else. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let them in. Mom immediately launched into it. We've been through a lot since you left, she said, sitting down. Your father's been sick again. We lost the house. Things have been hard. I heard, I said flatly. She nodded quickly, like she was hoping sympathy might crack me open. We've realized how wrong we were. You were only trying to help, and we took advantage of that. We're truly sorry. My sister finally spoke up, her tone robotic. Yeah, we shouldn't have said those things to you. It almost sounded believable. Almost. Then my mom pulled an envelope from her bag and slid it across the table. We're trying to get back on our feet, but the debts, well, they're piling up again. The bank's being impossible. We just need a little help this one last time. There it was. The real reason for the visit. I leaned back and stared at them both. You know, I was actually waiting to see how long it'd take before you asked for money again. Mom's face went pale. That's not fair. It's completely fair, I said. You've been playing the same game for years. You cry, apologize, and then hold out your hand. Her voice trembled. You don't understand what we're going through. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said, standing up. You're still trying to make your problems my responsibility? My sister's mask cracked then. She dropped the fake calm and sneered. You're pathetic. You sit here acting all high and mighty because you have money, but you're just a selfish jerk who abandoned his family. I turned to her, calm as ever. You're folding jeans at a store because you never learned the value of work. Don't talk to me about responsibility. Her jaw dropped, and for once, she didn't have a comeback. Mom stood up too, tears welling. You've changed, Dylan. You used to care about us. I cared, I said, until I realized caring was just another way for you to control me. They both stared at me, waiting for me to cave. I didn't. I pointed toward the door. We're done here. My sister muttered something under her breath as she stormed out. Mom lingered for a second, maybe hoping I'd stop her, maybe realizing I wouldn't. Then she left too, pulling the door closed behind her. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't painful. It was relief, pure and simple. I stood there for a while, looking at the empty spot where that envelope sat on the table. I could have helped them. I had the money, but that's not what they needed. What they needed was to finally live in the world they built, without my safety net. That night, I sat outside on my porch, watching the sun go down. The air was cool, quiet. My phone stayed silent, and I hoped it would stay that way. I thought about how everyone says family's everything, but no one talks about how sometimes family's the thing that drains you dry. Boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you sane. And yeah, they still probably tell people I'm cold, selfish, heartless. But I sleep fine, because at the end of the day, they called me selfish for protecting my money. But I'm not the one who stole from family. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 2. Your motorcycle won't pay the bills, Dad said, mocking me. But when my brother exposed I had a fortune at Thanksgiving dinner, they won a mansion plus $250,000 from me. I, 32 male, grew up as a certified family disappointment. My parents didn't just think I was less impressive than my brother, they made it their mission to remind me daily. While my younger brother, 30 male, Marcus, the golden child, was busy collecting academic trophies and getting straight A's, I was the guy spending every waking minute in my neighbor's garage learning how to fix motorcycles. My obsession with bikes started when I was 14. Our neighbor, let's call him Mr. J, restored vintage Harleys and let me hang around his garage after school. The dude was more of a father to me than my actual dad. He'd actually listen when I talked and teach me real skills. While Marcus was winning science fairs with whatever nerdy project my parents paid for, I was learning how to rebuild carburetors and tune engines on classic shovel heads and panheads. Mr. J would actually high-five me when I figured stuff out, while at home, my accomplishments might as well have been invisible. The classic line in our house wasn't "good job" or "I'm proud of you." It was, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" I swear to God, I heard that phrase so often I thought it was my actual name for a while. When Marcus got accepted into some fancy science program in 10th grade, my dad bought him a $2,000 gaming laptop. For educational purposes, yeah right, a new desk setup, and took the family out for steak. When I rebuilt my first engine completely solo, a vintage Ironhead that even Mr. J said it was challenging, my parents couldn't even be bothered to look up from dinner. I walked in all excited like, "Hey, got that Sportster running today?" And my dad just grunted, "Keep it down." It wasn't just ignoring my interests. They actively tried to sabotage my motorcycle phase. Their words, not mine. My motorcycle magazines would mysteriously disappear. Tools I bought with my own money would vanish from the garage. Once I saved up for 3 months to buy a used repair manual collection, and my mom donated them during spring cleaning because that junk was cluttering up your room. But Marcus's bedroom looked like a Best Buy, and Barnes & Noble had explosive diarrhea all over it. Latest tech, stacks of books, special desk lighting so his precious genius brain could develop properly. Meanwhile, I got yelled at for having dirty fingernails from working on engines. The worst was whenever relatives came over. My parents would parade Marcus around like a show pony. Marcus got accepted to the governor's STEM program. Marcus won first place at regionals. Marcus is being recruited by MIT. Then some uncle or cousin would turn to me and ask what I was up to, and before I could answer, my mom would jump in with, "Oh, he's just going through a rebellious phase with these motorcycles. He'll grow out of it and get a real job eventually." Then my dad would add something supportive like, "Not everyone can be academically inclined like Marcus. We're still waiting to see what he'll do with himself." Then they'd literally change the subject back to Marcus. I wasn't even worth a conversation. By senior year, Marcus had already been accepted to 3 elite universities with full rides. My parents turned our refrigerator into a shrine for his acceptance letters, literally covered with them. Not exaggerating. I had solid grades, but I also had an actual life plan. I wanted to open a motorcycle repair shop specializing in American classics. I'd been working part-time at the local garage for 2 years, saving every dollar, studying business plans at night. My boss said I had real talent, and customers would specifically ask for me to work on their bikes. Not that any of this registered with my parents. According to them, my entire future was a joke because it didn't involve a fancy degree or sitting in an office. Every time I mentioned my shop plans, my mom would get this pained look like I just told her I was planning to become a professional dumpster diver. My dad wouldn't even acknowledge it. He'd literally pretend I hadn't spoken. The funny thing? My parents weren't even successful themselves. Dad was a middle manager at some insurance company, constantly passed over for promotions. Mom was an administrative assistant who talked about her career like she was running the place. But somehow they'd convinced themselves that Marcus was their ticket to reflected glory. He would become something big and important, and they'd get to say, "That's our son." By 18, I was basically invisible in my own home. I'd come and go, and half the time they wouldn't even notice. So when I graduated high school, I had about $12,000 saved up. Not life-changing money, but pretty damn impressive considering I was making $8.50 an hour turning wrenches at the garage. I'd been living like a monk for 2 years. No new clothes, no going out with friends, no $300 gaming consoles that Marcus seemed to get every Christmas. Just work, save, and occasionally buy parts to practice rebuilds on junker bikes I'd flip for small profits. I was basically running a mini business out of Mr. J's garage on weekends, and he was cool enough to let me keep whatever I made. I needed around $40,000 to make my shop dream happen, proper equipment, not the hand-me-down tools I was using, first month's rent on a small shop space, insurance, which is expensive when you're 18, and some initial inventory. I'd spent months grinding through research on small business loans, SBA options, interest rates. The only issue? No credit history. I needed a co-signer. I'll never forget the night I tried to have the talk with my parents. I waited until Sunday dinner when everyone was in a decent mood. I'd even made this professional-looking binder with my entire business plan. Color-coded tabs, market analysis, competition research, projected earnings, the whole 9. Even had letters from my boss and 3 local bike guys vouching for my skills. I spent 2 weeks working on this thing, and it looked legit as hell. I slid that binder across the table and started explaining my plan. Didn't even get 30 seconds in before my dad literally snorted, then started full-on laughing. My mom flipped through a couple pages with this look on her face, like she was handling used toilet paper. The message was crystal clear. My dream was a joke to them. My dad went off about how no son of his was going to waste his life as a grease monkey when he could get an education and do something that required actual intelligence. When I pointed out that they were giving Marcus $30,000 a year for college expenses despite his scholarship, my dad turned purple. Started ranting about how Marcus was investing in his future while I was playing with bikes in a fantasy world. I went to bed that night feeling lower than whale shit. The next morning, I dragged myself to the kitchen for coffee before work and overheard my parents talking excitedly about how they'd just refinanced our house. They'd pulled out $120,000 in equity, 4 times what I needed for my business, to create a college experience fund for Marcus. My dad was going on about how Marcus needed to live in the premium dorm with the right connections and would need money for the proper social clubs and study abroad programs that would set him up for life. Something snapped in me that morning. I realized I was never going to get an ounce of support from these people. I was the family afterthought, the backup kid. My entire existence was a plan B. I didn't say a word. Went to work like normal, but inside my head, gears were turning. I'd been researching different cities for months as backup plans. Austin kept popping up. Killer motorcycle scene, manageable cost of living, and business regulations that wouldn't choke a new shop to death like back home in New Jersey. When I got home, I waited until my parents left for their weekly date night. Then I packed whatever I owned, went to the bank, withdrew my entire savings, left my house key on the kitchen counter with a note. Gone to build my future since there's no place for it here. I'll be in touch when I get settled. Then drove off to Austin. My mom called 5 times that first week. Not once did she ask if I was okay, or if I had a place to sleep. Instead, I got these insane voicemails about how selfish and inconsiderate I was for abandoning the family right when they needed to focus on Marcus's college preparations. The best one was where she actually said, "Your timing is so inconsiderate. We were going to need you to drive Marcus's things to campus and help him move in. Now we'll have to hire someone or take time off work ourselves." Heaven forbid they lift a finger for their golden child when they had a perfectly good pack mule they could have used instead. My first month in Austin was rough as hell. I rented a room in this absolute dump of a house with 4 other guys for $400 a month. The bathroom had this black mold situation that probably took years off my life, and my bedroom was basically a converted pantry with space for a twin mattress and not much else. Found a job at a local repair shop. The owner, Tom, was this old school biker who'd been wrenching since the 70s. Dude looked as if Santa Claus was in Hell's Angels. Massive white beard, arms covered in faded tattoos, and this permanent scowl that made customers nervous. But the man was a mechanical genius. Tom started me at $14 an hour, almost double what I was making back home. I took every shift I could get my hands on, regularly pulling 60-hour weeks. On my days off, I'd help people fix their bikes out of our house's garage for cheap cash jobs, building a reputation and some side money. My roommates thought I was insane working that much, but they loved the extra cash I threw in for taking up garage space. I lived on basically nothing. Ramen, eggs, and whatever fast food was on special. No cable, no streaming services, no bars or clubs. Just work, sleep, and the occasional bike meet where I'd network with local riders and hand out cards for my side gig. My parents' calls got less frequent, then stopped entirely when I refused to engage with their guilt trips. They sent exactly 1 care package, full of college brochures for schools in Austin. Got a real good laugh out of that before tossing it in the dumpster. About 3 months in, I hit a groove. Tom started giving me the more challenging repair jobs, and customers began asking for me specifically. One guy brought in this absolutely clapped-out 70s Triumph that 3 other shops had given up on. Spent a whole weekend figuring out some weird electrical gremlin in that thing, and when the owner picked it up and heard it purring like a kitten, he tipped me $200 cash on top of the repair bill. That night, sitting on my crappy mattress counting my money, I realized something. I was making it. Not thriving, not comfortable, but surviving completely on my own terms. No one was telling me my dreams were stupid. No one was making me feel like a consolation prize in my own life. For the first time in 18 years, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that felt better than any college acceptance letter. After a year of barely sleeping and eating, I had enough saved up for a decent loan application. My credit had improved enough from paying bills on time that the bank only required a 30% down payment instead of a co-signer. I started scouting locations during my lunch breaks. Austin was booming even then, so most decent spots were way out of my price range. After weeks of searching, I found this absolute dump on the edge of town. Previous tenant was some vape shop that went under. Shocking, I know. Place had dingy yellow walls and lighting that made it look like a serial killer's basement. But it had good highway visibility, and the rent wasn't completely insane. Most importantly, it was zoned for automotive, so I could actually work on bikes there. I'll never forget signing those lease papers. 20-year-old me committing to $1,750 a month in rent alone. Add in utilities, insurance, and all the other business expenses, and I was looking at nearly $3,000 a month in overhead before I made a single dollar. Terrifying doesn't even begin to cover it. Spent 2 weeks scrubbing that place down to the concrete and slapping fresh paint on the walls. Did it all myself after work and on my days off. My roommates helped in exchange for drinks and pizza, which was basically my only fun expense that month. W Lone Star Cycles officially opened with just me, 2 lifts I bought used from a closing Harley shop in Houston, and the basic tools I'd accumulated. My entire parts inventory was whatever I could fit in one metal cabinet. That first day I sat there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and exactly 2 people walked in, one looking for the previous vape shop, and one guy asking if I could fix his lawnmower. I did, for $40, because beggars can't be choosers. For the first 3 months, I kept working part-time at Tom's repair shop to make sure my bills got paid. That meant opening my own shop at 7 a.m., working until 2 p.m., then heading to the repair shop from 3 to 8 p.m., then often coming back to my shop to finish jobs until midnight. 7 days a week, no days off, no social life, nothing but work and occasional sleep. I slept on a cot in the back room to save on rent, showered at the gym across the street. If any health inspector had seen my living situation, they'd have shut me down on the spot. But slowly, painfully slowly, customers started coming in. At first, it was just oil changes and basic maintenance, the cheap stuff no one else wanted to do. I took every job, no matter how small. $20 tire change? Done. $15 oil swap? Let's do it. I was the bargain basement of motorcycle shops, and I was totally fine with that. Get them in the door for the cheap stuff, impress them with quality work, and hope they come back for the bigger stuff. Word started spreading among the local bike community. I was the new guy who didn't overcharge, showed up when he said he would, and could work on vintage American bikes that the bigger shops didn't want to touch. After about 6 months, I had enough steady business that I could quit the repair shop. Tom was actually cool about it. Told me he'd expected me to leave months earlier. My first real break came when this rich tech guy brought in his 60s panhead that 3 other shops had tried and failed to get running right. He'd heard about me from someone in his riding club and figured he had nothing to lose. Spent 3 days straight on that bike, barely sleeping, taking the entire engine apart and rebuilding it. When he picked it up and it started on the first kick, running smoother than it probably had in decades, he was so impressed he tipped me $1,000 on top of my bill. Told me he'd tell all his buddies. And holy shit, did he? Within 2 weeks, I had 4 more vintage bikes from his riding buddies. These weren't your average riders. These were tech executives and surgeons with money to burn on their hobby bikes. They didn't blink at my labor rates, and several mentioned they were relieved to find someone who actually knew about carbureted bikes, instead of just modern fuel-injected stuff. By the end of year 1, I hired my first mechanic, this old dude named Frank who'd worked at dealerships for 30 years before retiring. He was bored with retirement and wanted to work part-time. Perfect fit, and the customers loved him. His crusty old man stories alone were worth his salary. The real game changer came when I added custom work to our services. I'd always been into chopper builds, but never had the time or money to do them. Then, one of my tech executive clients asked if I could build him a custom bobber from scratch. Quoted him $18,000, expecting him to balk. He didn't even negotiate, just slapped down a $9,000 deposit like it was coffee money. That first custom build nearly killed me. Spent every waking hour on it for 2 months. Made about 1 million mistakes and had to redo parts several times. But when it was done, man. Gloss black with subtle red ghost flames, stripped down to the bare essentials. Perfect stance. It was a rolling piece of art. When the client came to pick it up, he was speechless. Started doing one custom build at a time alongside our repair business. Each one got better than the last. Started taking pictures of everything. Set up an Instagram account for the shop. Just bikes we were working on and completed builds. Wanted a place to showcase our work. 2 years after opening, we were pulling in around $500,000 annually with healthy profits. Hired 2 more full-time mechanics and a front desk person to handle scheduling and parts orders. Moved into a good apartment. Bought new tools, expanded our parts inventory, added a small but decent customer waiting area with coffee and Wi-Fi. The real cherry on top was finally treating myself to my dream bike, a fully restored 1969 Harley Shovelhead that came up for sale when an old collector passed away. Metallic blue with chrome for days. The same model Mr. J had been restoring when I first started hanging around his garage as a kid. Cost me $22,000 and worth every penny. All this time, my parents had no idea. We barely spoke, just a text on birthdays and holidays. They never asked about the business, and I never volunteered the information. In my mind, they'd lost the right to know about my success when they laughed me out of the room with my business plan. Their loss, not mine. But family has a way of worming back into your life, especially when they smell money. And that's where this story gets really interesting. Last Thanksgiving, I flew home for the first time in years. Total mistake. What the hell was I thinking mistake? It started with a text from Marcus of all people. Hey bro, been a long time. We're all doing Thanksgiving at the house this year. You should come. After ignoring me for years, now he suddenly wanted family time? Suspicious, but I'll admit part of me liked the idea of showing up successful after they'd all written me off. Maybe they'd see I wasn't the family failure they always thought I was. Plus, I was curious what they'd been up to all these years. Stupid curiosity. Bought nice gifts for everyone. Going home felt weird as hell. Like visiting a foreign country, where you used to live but can't remember the customs. Everything familiar but slightly off. Pulling up to my parents' house, I sat in the car for a solid 5 minutes just breathing. Same house. But I felt nothing. No nostalgia, no warm fuzzies, just this weird clinical detachment, like I was observing someone else's life. When I walked in, walls were still covered in framed photos of Marcus's graduations, awards, and accomplishments. Not a single picture of me anywhere. Cool, cool, cool. Totally normal. Marcus was there with his new fiancée, Amber, Harvard MBA, working at some corporate consulting firm that paid well, but had him looking like absolute shit. Dark circles under his eyes, constantly checking his phone with this twitchy panic, popping antacids like they were Tic Tacs. But hey, he was successful by my parents' definition, so clearly living the dream. Dinner was classic Thomas family theater. The Marcus Show, guest starring Marcus. 2 straight hours of my parents fawning over his promotion, his fiancée's family connections, his new condo in the right neighborhood. My mom kept dropping price tags into the conversation like they were impressive data points. The HOA fees alone are $1,200 a month, but it's worth it for the prestige of the address. Then Amber mentioned she had a cousin in Austin. Just making conversation, you know? Oh, that's where my brother lives, Marcus said, suddenly remembering I existed. His tone had this weird fake casual vibe, but something in his expression made me uneasy. He owns some motorcycle shop or something. My dad, who hadn't directly spoken to me all night, nearly choked on his turkey. A shop? I thought you were just working at one. I shrugged, deliberately downplaying it. Started my own place a few years back. It's doing all right. Understatement of the century. But I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction. Marcus set down his fork with this smug little smirk that instantly transported me back to being 16 and him tattling to mom about me coming home late. All right, dude, why are you being so modest? Your Instagram has over 80,000 followers. Your shop just got featured in Cycle World as one of the top custom builders in Texas. Didn't that MMA fighter just buy one of your choppers for like $45,000? You're making hundreds of thousands. The dining room went dead silent. Like, hear a pin drop silent. I could practically see the dollar signs forming in their eyes. How do you know all that? I asked, genuinely surprised. We weren't even connected on social media. Marcus shrugged, still with that irritating smirk. I Google everyone. Occupational hazard of consulting. You're actually pretty easy to track online. Tons of articles, build features, customer reviews. Very impressive digital footprint for a grease monkey. He actually did the air quotes. 30 years old and still doing air quotes. The change in the room's atmosphere was immediate and gross. My dad, who'd barely acknowledged my existence for 7 years, suddenly transformed into proud papa. Started telling Amber about how I'd always had a mechanical mind and how he'd encouraged my passion from day one. I nearly spit out my food. The audacity of this dude. You what? He laughed it off with a dismissive wave. Don't be modest, son. I always knew you'd figure it out eventually. This from a man who once told me fixing motorcycles was a career for people too stupid to get real jobs. The rest of dinner was like being in the Twilight Zone. My parents kept peppering me with questions about the business, but not normal questions like, are you happy? Or, do you enjoy the work? No, it was all, what's your annual revenue And how many employees do you have now? And what's the property value in your area? My dad even used the term EBITDA, which I'm pretty sure he'd learned from a Wall Street movie the week before. After dinner, the real agenda emerged. My dad cornered me, arm around my shoulder like we were old pals who went way back. He started going on about my impressive entrepreneurial success and how he'd always known I had it in me. Years of silence, but suddenly we're besties because my bank account has commas in it. Funny how that works. My mom came with her iPad, showing me photos of houses she was considering purchasing. One was a lakefront property with a boat dock that looked like something from a vacation brochure. This one needs about $100,000 in updates, she said super casually, like she was discussing the price of potatoes. Nothing for someone successful like you. We could have family gatherings there in the summer. Wouldn't that be nice after all these years apart? I just nodded and made non-committal noises, watching this whole charade play out. The surreal part was, they seemed to genuinely believe I was buying it, like we had some alternate history, where they'd been supportive, loving parents the whole time. Then over dessert, my dad cleared his throat with this rehearsed speech energy. You know, your mother and I have been doing some financial planning. Our retirement portfolios took a hit in the last market correction. And this house, well, we refinanced a few times for Marcus's education. The smart financial move would be to retire early, avoid the high tax bracket from my end-of-career earnings. He paused, making significant eye contact with me. I knew exactly where this was going, but let him finish. Maybe you could help out your family a bit? You know, give back after all we've invested in raising you? I raised an eyebrow. How much exactly are you thinking? Dad glanced at Mom like they'd practiced this, then dropped the bomb. We'd need about $250,000 to be comfortable, plus maybe setting up a small monthly stipend. College costs really drained us, and your brother's graduate loans are significant, $250,000, plus a monthly allowance. For the people who laughed in my face when I asked them to co-sign a $40,000 loan. The people who told me my career choice was embarrassing and stupid. The people who didn't have a single photo of me in their house. Well, family supports family, my mom jumped in, reaching for my hand with this fake sincerity that made my skin crawl. We supported you your whole life. I almost laughed out loud. Did you, though? I asked quietly. Marcus, ever the peacemaker when it benefited him, jumped in with his consultant voice. Come on, bro. It's not like it would hurt you. I saw your shop's expansion in that article. You're killing it while mom and dad are struggling. Isn't this what family's for? I just nodded and said I'd think about it. But I already knew my answer. Just wanted to enjoy the show. My mom hugged me goodbye at the door, whispering, We're so proud of you, honey. I always knew you'd make something of yourself. The crazy part? I think she actually believed it. People really do rewrite history to make themselves the heroes of their own stories. On the ride home, I kept replaying the evening in my head. The absolute 180-degree turn in how they treated me. The way I was suddenly visible after years of being the family ghost. My mom started texting before I even boarded the plane. It was so wonderful to reconnect. Dad and I are thinking about that lakefront property. When can we expect your contribution? The absolute balls on these people. I'm serious. Not even a thank you for considering or we'd be grateful if. Just straight to when they could expect my money to start rolling in. The next few messages got progressively more entitled. My dad literally texted, We've set up a special account for your family contributions. I'll email the wire instructions. Like it was already a done deal. I didn't respond to any of it. Just let them keep digging themselves deeper. By the fifth message, I blocked their numbers. My brother too, since he'd started chiming in about how selfish I was being. I figured that was it. They'd be pissed, talk shit about me to the extended family, but eventually move on once they realized they couldn't squeeze blood from this particular stone. Boy, was I wrong. About 3 weeks after blocking them, I started getting weird messages from distant relatives and old high school friends. Is everything okay at home? Heard you're having some issues with your folks. Then my cousin called. Dude, you need to check Facebook, was the first thing he said. Your parents are on a fucking crusade. I hadn't been on Facebook in months, but I logged into my dusty account, and holy shit. My parents had gone nuclear. They'd been posting daily updates about their troubled son who had stolen family money and abandoned them in their time of need. According to their posts, I had taken $50,000 in cash from my dad's home office before leaving for Texas, money that was supposedly set aside for Marcus's education. They claimed this seed money was the only reason my business succeeded, and now I was refusing to acknowledge my debt to the family. LOL, seriously now? But wait, it got worse. My mom had joined several local community groups and was telling everyone how I'd left them struggling while I flaunted my wealth online. And she'd take screenshots from my shop's Instagram, pictures of custom builds and the new location, and post them with captions like, "While we struggle to pay medical bills, our son buys new property with money he took from us." Then, there was a GoFundMe my mother had started titled, "Abandoned by Our Son. Help Us Save Our Home." It had already raised nearly $7,000 from sympathetic strangers and distant acquaintances. I really laughed at this one. How pathetic. It was fucking unbelievable. These people were actually trying to paint me as some monster, and people were buying it. The comments were full of supportive messages and outrage on their behalf. Some family friends I'd never even heard of were posting about how they always knew there was something off about me. But I wasn't going to let that slide. I was about to teach them some good lessons. I called a lawyer immediately, filed for defamation. I forwarded all the screenshots my cousin had sent me and gave him access to my financial records. We filed the suit the next day. They were actively damaging my reputation and potentially my business with these lies. Couple of customers saw my account tags and had already mentioned seeing something online about the shop owner having family issues. In a business built on trust and personal reputation, that kind of talk can be fatal. We sent them a cease letter warning them if they don't take the post down within 48 hours, there will be consequences, and addressed each false claim with counter evidence. Their response? They doubled down. My dad posted a screenshot of the cease and desist with a caption about how I was now threatening legal action against my own parents and trying to silence their pleas for help. My mom went on some local Facebook group for parents and claimed I was legally bullying them because I was ashamed of the truth coming out. My lawyer was practically giddy and said they made our case so much stronger. They were served a legal notice that their claims are false with evidence, and they've chosen to continue. That's textbook malicious defamation. We pushed forward with the suit. The consequences hit them fast and hard. A local newspaper ran a story, and suddenly my dad was losing accounting clients. Turns out people don't trust accountants accused of lying about finances. And my mom got placed on leave from her elementary school job. Their GoFundMe got frozen when people reported it, and they couldn't provide verification for their claims. Their little social media scam was crumbling around them. A week before our court date, they caved. We settled with terms heavily in my favor. They had to post public retractions, shut down their fundraiser, and pay my legal fees. Best part? They signed an agreement prohibiting them from even mentioning my name online without permission. My cousin told me they were furious about the humiliation, but whatever. Then a week later, my dad called from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. He started, "Son, this has all gotten out of hand. We're family. We shouldn't be fighting like this. Your mother and I are willing to put all this behind us if you're ready to be reasonable. I'm just wondering how you still got the nerve to call me," I repeated. "What the fuck do you want? I don't give a shit if things got out of hand. You made your own bed. Son, please, we're in a tight spot financially since this whole misunderstanding. My business is suffering. Your mother might lose her job. We didn't expect things to go this far. We are really sorry." Translation: we didn't expect to get screwed for trying to ruin your reputation. "That's not my problem," I said. "We're done. If you contact me again, I'll report you for harassment. Now deal with the consequences and UST fuck off." And with that, I hung up and blocked the number. Since that phone call last year, I never heard from them again. Meanwhile, my career? Still booming. Just opened our second location. We're now the premier custom motorcycle shop in Central Texas, with an 8-month waiting list for builds. I've got 20 employees, a restored farmhouse outside Austin, and the freedom to build the kinds of bikes I used to dream about while being told I was wasting my life. So that's my story, Reddit. Next time someone tells you that family comes first or blood is thicker than water, remember that some family ties are actually chains. Cut them if you need to. Build your own life. Success is the sweetest revenge. Edit. Thanks for all the awards and supportive comments. To answer some common questions. 1. Stop asking if I ever plan to reconcile with them. You already know the answer. 2. Yes, I dated a couple of times through these years, but nothing worth mentioning. It ended fast. 3. Stop asking me why none of you can find Lone Star Instagram. I changed all the names for obvious reasons. Story 3. Excluded from my sister's wedding because I was socially unfit. Her words, not mine. So I booked a peaceful vacation instead. The next morning, karma hit fast, and my phone started buzzing like a hornet's nest. Dozens of missed calls, a flood of panicked texts. Suddenly, the unfit one was the only one they needed. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. This happened over the past few months, and I'm still processing it all. Throwaway account because some family members know my main Reddit handle. Sorry for the length, but context matters, and the ending is absolutely worth it. I've been debating whether to post this for weeks, but my friends keep telling me Reddit needs to hear this story. TLDR at the bottom for those who want to skip ahead. But honestly, you're going to want to read the whole thing. This is one of those stories where every detail matters, and the payoff is incredible. All right, Reddit, let me paint you a picture of my life before everything went sideways. I 34 male, and I work as a senior marketing director for a major advertising agency here in Chicago. Started from the absolute bottom as an account coordinator, making $42,000 straight out of college with student loans up to my eyeballs. And after 12 years of grinding through 60-hour weeks, missed weekends, and more corporate politics than I care to remember, I'm now pulling in about 340,000 plus performance bonuses that usually add another 80,000 annually. I own my house outright in a nice suburb, 3-bedroom colonial that I bought as a foreclosure and spent 2 years renovating myself. Drive a decent car, nothing flashy but reliable. I've got about $950,000 saved up between my 401k, investment accounts, and regular savings. Not trying to show off here, but this becomes critically important later in the story. My sister Ashley, 29 female, and she's basically everything you'd expect from someone who peaked in high school and never quite figured out what to do next. Always been the pretty one in the family who got by on looks and charm, while I was the awkward nerd with thick glasses actually working for everything I had. After graduating high school with a 2.1 GPA, she bounced between community college for about a semester, some pyramid scheme nonsense selling makeup to her friends, a brief stint at a clothing store, and eventually landed on becoming an Instagram influencer, with like 60,000 followers she bought half of. Her content is basically just lifestyle posts, selfies at trendy restaurants she can't afford, and promoting whatever random products companies send her for free. Think generic blonde girl holding teeth whitening kits and protein powders with captions like, "Living my best life. Use code Ashley20 for discount." You know the type. Here's where this story really starts. I've been her financial safety net for literally years. And I'm not talking about small amounts here and there. When she crashed her brand new Honda Civic because she was texting while driving and rear-ended someone at a red light, I paid the $8,000 for a replacement down payment. When she racked up $18,000 in credit card debt buying designer clothes and handbags for her brand and content creation, I bailed her out and paid off every single card. When she got evicted from her apartment because she spent 3 months of rent money on some girl's trip to Miami for networking opportunities, I covered her security deposits, first month's rent, and moving costs for a new place. But it goes deeper than just the big emergencies. I paid for her car insurance for 2 years when she claimed she was between opportunities. I bought her groceries more times than I can count. I paid her phone bill, her gym membership, even her Netflix subscription because she said she needed it for market research on what content was trending. I'm talking about dropping probably $90,000 on her over the years, and that's being conservative with my estimate. Every single time, she'd cry real tears, promise she learned her lesson, swear she'd pay me back as soon as she got back on her feet. Spoiler alert, she never did. Not once. Not even $5. The reason I kept helping wasn't because I'm some pushover who doesn't understand money. It's because after our dad died of a heart attack when I was 16 and she was 11, I felt genuinely responsible for her well-being. Mom basically checked out emotionally after the funeral, started working double shifts as a nurse and drinking wine every night to cope with the grief. Someone had to step up and be the adult, so I did. I helped Ashley with her homework every night, drove her to school activities and friends' houses, talked her through every teenage crisis and breakup with whatever loser she was dating that month. When she wanted to quit high school because some boy broke her heart, I'm the one who convinced her to stick it out. When she needed a dress for prom but mom forgot to save money for it, I worked extra shifts at my part-time job to buy her one. So when she started dating Brad about 18 months ago, some crypto day trader who thinks he's the Wolf of Wall Street because he made some lucky investments during the 2021 cryptocurrency boom, I wasn't exactly thrilled. The guy drove a leased Porsche, wore expensive suits, and constantly talked about his portfolio and investment strategies. But Ashley seemed genuinely happy for the first time in years, and he appeared to have money. So I figured maybe she'd finally found someone else to support her lifestyle, and I could stop being her personal ATM. Looking back now, I realize how naive that was. I should have known better. 2 months before Ashley's wedding, I'm sitting in our main conference room in the middle of a crucial campaign presentation for a Fortune 500 client. We're talking about a $15 million account that could make or break our quarterly numbers. When my phone buzzes with a text message, Normally, I'd ignore it during something this important, but I glanced down and saw it was from Ashley. Hey, Jake! So Brad and I just finalized our guest list, and we had to make some really tough decisions about numbers. The venue has super strict capacity limits, and with both our families being so big, we just couldn't fit everyone we wanted to include. Hope you understand. Love you lots. I'm sitting there staring at my phone screen, trying to process what I just read while my creative director is discussing budget allocations and timeline deliverables. The words weren't computing properly in my brain. I excused myself from the meeting, told my team I'd be right back, and stepped into an empty office to call her immediately. Ashley, what the heck is this text message about? Oh, hey, Jake! She answered in that overly cheerful, fake sweet voice she uses when she wants something or knows she's about to disappoint someone. I was hoping you'd call. I know the text was probably confusing, but the venue situation is really complicated and are you seriously uninviting me from your wedding? It's not that simple. God, why do you always have to jump to the worst possible conclusion? You're being so dramatic right now. Brad's paying for everything, and his family insisted on bringing like 25 people, and we're already way over budget, and the venue can only hold so many people legally, and Ashley, I'm your brother. Your only brother. I know, and I love you so much. But it's literally just one day. You hate weddings anyway, remember? You're always complaining about how they're overpriced parties and a waste of money. I figured you'd actually be relieved not to have to sit through all the ceremony stuff and small talk with relatives. That comment hit differently than she probably intended. Yeah, I think most weddings are ridiculously expensive productions that put couples into debt for what amounts to a single party. But this wasn't some random acquaintance's wedding. This was supposed to be my sister's wedding. The sister I'd been supporting financially and emotionally for over a decade. Ashley, I've been there for you through everything. Every single crisis. Every time you needed money. Every breakdown, Ugh, here we go with the money thing again. She cut me off with an exasperated sigh. I never asked you to help me, Jake. You offered. You always offer. I never put a gun to your head and demanded money. My blood pressure shot through the roof so fast, I thought I might actually have a stroke right there in that empty office. She never asked? She never asked me to pay her rent so she wouldn't be homeless? She never asked me to bail her out of credit card debt? She never called me crying at midnight begging for help with some financial emergency? So that's it? I'm just not invited to your wedding? Jake, please don't make this harder than it already is. Brad really wanted to keep it intimate and romantic, and his family has very specific expectations about the guest list and the social dynamics, and how many people are you inviting total? Like, around 195, but that includes kids and plus ones and 195 people. But no room for the brother who'd been supporting her financially for over a decade. I hung up without another word and sat in that empty office for 20 minutes trying to process what had just happened, while my team was probably wondering where the heck I'd disappeared to during our biggest presentation of the quarter. When I finally went back to the conference room, I could barely focus on the client meeting. My mind kept spinning with questions. How long had she been planning this? When did she decide I wasn't worthy of witnessing her wedding? Did Brad influence this decision, or was it all her idea? I needed answers, and I needed them fast. So during my lunch break, I called Mom at her little retirement community in Arizona, where she's been living since she turned 65. She basically spends her days playing slot machines at the nearby casino, taking water aerobics classes, and dating men who are probably closer to my age than hers. Jake, what a wonderful surprise. How's my successful son doing? How's work going? Mom, Ashley just uninvited me from her wedding. What the heck is really going on here? The pause on the other end of the line was way too long, like uncomfortably, suspiciously long. Long enough that I started wondering if the call had dropped. Oh, sweetie, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Ashley loves you so much and she talks about you all the time. Maybe there was some confusion with the invitations or… Mom. I used the tone I remembered from childhood when I knew she was lying about something. What's really going on? And don't give me some story about misunderstandings. Okay, look, this is complicated, Jake. Brad's family is very well off, like really wealthy, and they're paying for most of the wedding expenses. Ashley mentioned there were some logistical complications with the guest list that had to be worked out. What kind of logistical complications? Another pause. Then the truth started coming out, piece by piece. Brad's family doesn't really… They're concerned that you might not fit in well with their social circle. Excuse me? What does that even mean? You know, they're all business owners and socialites and country club members, and Ashley was worried you might feel out of place or uncomfortable in that kind of environment. They have very specific expectations about image and presentation and social dynamics. And, Mom, I make more money than probably half those people do. It's not about money, Jake. It's about social standing and connections and the way people present themselves in certain circles. Brad's family moves in very exclusive social environments, and Ashley thought you might not be comfortable with all the formal protocols and expectations. The reality of what she was saying hit me like a freight train, so she thought I would embarrass her. She didn't say that exactly, but she wants everything to be absolutely perfect for Brad's family. She's trying to make a good impression and establish herself in their social circle. You understand, right? This wedding is really important for her future. Did you know about this decision beforehand? Ashley called me last week to explain the situation and ask for my advice about how to handle it. And you told her what? I told her to do whatever makes her happy. It's her wedding day, Jake. It's supposed to be the most important day of her life. Don't be selfish about this and make it all about you. Selfish. The word hit me like a physical blow. Here I was, the guy who'd been financially and emotionally supporting both of them for years, and I was being called selfish for wanting to attend my only sister's wedding. I hung up on her and sat in my car in the company parking lot, trying to wrap my head around this complete betrayal. My own family, the people I'd sacrificed for, the people I'd supported through every crisis, the people I'd put before my own needs for over a decade, thought I was some kind of social liability who would embarrass them in front of their new wealthy friends. That's when I decided things needed to change, permanently and dramatically. That night, I did something I'd never done before in my entire life. I sat down with my laptop, logged into my bank accounts, and methodically calculated exactly how much money I'd given Ashley over the years. Bank transfers, credit card payments I'd made directly to her creditors, loans that were never repaid, emergencies I'd covered, rent payments, car repairs, medical bills, insurance payments, groceries, utilities, everything. I created a spreadsheet and went through 5 years of bank statements line by line. Every transaction to Ashley or on Ashley's behalf. Every emergency payment, every bailout, every temporary loan that became permanent. The final number made me physically sick to my stomach. $127,000. $127,000 of my hard-earned money, gone forever. Money I could have invested in index funds that would probably be worth $180,000 by now. Money I could have used for my own life, my own goals, my own happiness. Money I could have spent on vacations, home improvements, or building my own future instead of subsidizing her Instagram lifestyle. And this is how they repaid me. By deciding I wasn't good enough to witness my sister's wedding, because I might embarrass her in front of her new rich in-laws. I called my lawyer first thing the next morning. He handles contract negotiations for my agency and some personal legal matters, so I trust his judgment on complex situations. Hypothetically, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, if someone owes you a significant amount of money and you have bank records showing multiple transfers over several years but no formal loan agreements, what are your legal options? That depends on the amount involved and the specific circumstances. What kind of situation are we talking about here? I explained the entire situation in detail. The years of financial support, the wedding exclusion, the family's attitude about my social standing. My lawyer listened without interrupting, occasionally asking clarifying questions about documentation and communication records. Jake, I'm going to be completely straight with you here. Without promissory notes or formal loan agreements, it's going to be very difficult to prove in court that these payments weren't gifts. Family financial support is often considered gratuitous unless there's clear documentation of loan terms and repayment expectations. So I have no legal recourse? I didn't say that. There might be other angles we could explore. The pattern of financial dependency could be legally relevant, and if we can demonstrate that money was given with clear expectation of repayment based on communications or circumstances, we could potentially file a civil suit. Even if we don't ultimately win, the legal process itself would be quite disruptive and expensive for someone planning a wedding. Discovery alone would be extensive and costly. I smiled for the first time in days, but then I realized something. Legal action felt too clean, too impersonal, too civilized for what they'd done to me. Ashley had made this personal when she decided I was an embarrassment to her perfect new life. She wanted to play social climbing games and exclude family members who didn't meet her new standards. Fine. I could play games too, and I was much better at strategy than she'd ever be. Instead of going the legal route immediately, I decided to use the professional skills that had made me successful in the first place. See, Brad might think he's some kind of crypto genius, but I actually understand business, marketing, and most importantly, networking and relationship management. I remembered something Ashley had mentioned in passing several months ago during one of her excited phone calls about wedding planning. Brad was actively seeking Series A funding for some new cryptocurrency project. He'd been bragging to her about meetings with investors and venture capital firms, claiming he was going to build the next big blockchain platform. I spent an entire weekend doing what I do best in my professional life: comprehensive research and competitive analysis. I found Brad's LinkedIn profile, his company website, his social media presence, press mentions, business registrations, everything I could dig up. This guy was running what appeared to be a pretty questionable operation. His crypto investment firm was basically him and two other guys operating out of a shared workspace, making trades based on market sentiment and YouTube tutorials. But here's where it got interesting. He was actively courting Series A funding for some ambitious blockchain project he claimed would revolutionize decentralized finance. And one of the potential investors he'd been pitching? A venture capital firm where my college buddy Tyler works as a senior investment partner. Tyler and I went to Northwestern together, we're in the same business fraternity, and we've stayed in touch over the years. He's sharp, successful, and well-connected in the Chicago investment community. More importantly, he values character and integrity in the entrepreneurs he backs. I gave Tyler a call on Sunday afternoon, framing it as catching up with an old friend. Jake, man, it's been way too long. How's the advertising world treating you these days? Can't complain, Tyler. Business is good, clients are happy, and I'm finally at the level where work feels more strategic than tactical. Hey, random question. Is your firm looking at a crypto startup called Blockvest Capital? Oh, wow, yeah, actually. Some guy named Brad reached out through our website a few weeks ago. Pretty small operation, but the initial pitch deck looked somewhat interesting from a market opportunity perspective. Why do you ask? That's my sister's fiancé. And let me tell you about the kind of character and judgment this guy really demonstrates. I told Tyler everything. How Brad had influenced my sister to exclude her own brother from their wedding, because his wealthy family thought I wouldn't fit in with their social circle. How he was obviously using her for her social media presence and appearance, while she used him for his money and lifestyle. How his entire business model appeared to be built on cryptocurrency speculation, rather than legitimate technology innovation or sustainable business strategy. Dude, that's seriously messed up on multiple levels. And honestly, we were already having some second thoughts about the investment after our preliminary due diligence. Our research team raised several red flags during their initial analysis. What kind of red flags? Let's just say their financial statements don't quite add up when you dig into the details, and their business model is essentially buy cryptocurrency assets and hope the market continues going up. There's no real technological innovation, no proprietary platform, no sustainable competitive advantage. We were probably going to pass anyway, but hearing about their character and decision-making in personal matters gives me even more concern about their professional ethics and judgment. Well, maybe you should pass extra thoroughly on this one, and maybe mention to other investors in your network what kind of character and values this guy demonstrates when he thinks no one important is watching. Tyler laughed, and I could hear the wheels turning in his head. You know what, Jake? I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. The investment community here is smaller than people realize, and word travels fast when someone raises concerns about character or ethics. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday in late June at some expensive venue outside the city. That Friday morning, I made a decision that felt absolutely liberating. I took a personal day from work and drove 3 hours north to this amazing resort I'd been wanting to visit for years, but never made time for. I booked myself a long weekend in their best available suite, $600 a night, but it had incredible mountain views, spa access, room service, and a private balcony overlooking a lake. After years of sacrificing my own desires to fund Ashley's lifestyle, spending money on myself felt revolutionary. I posted a picture from the resort lobby with the caption, "Sometimes the best seat at a wedding is anywhere else. Living my best life, no regrets." But here's where the story gets really satisfying, Reddit. That Friday evening, while I'm enjoying an incredible dinner from room service and watching the sunset reflect off the lake from my private balcony, my phone starts lighting up with notifications like a Christmas tree. Tyler had done his job beautifully. Word had spread through his professional network that Brad was ethically questionable and financially questionable. But more importantly, one of the other potential investors had decided to do some serious due diligence into Brad's actual financial situation. And what they discovered was absolutely beautiful in its karmic justice. Turns out my future brother-in-law had been massively inflating his assets and income to impress Ashley, her friends, and potential investors. The luxury downtown apartment he'd been featuring in his social media posts? Rented month to month, and he was 3 months behind on payments with an eviction notice pending. The Porsche he drove to fancy restaurants and networking events? Leased, and also multiple payments behind, with repossession threatened. His incredibly successful cryptocurrency portfolio that he bragged about constantly? Down about 70% from its peak value, and he'd been borrowing money against credit cards to maintain his lifestyle and cover trading losses. But here's the absolute most beautiful part of this entire situation. The wedding venue required a $45,000 deposit that was supposed to be paid 3 weeks prior to the event. Brad had been stalling the venue coordinator, claiming there was a temporary liquidity issue with one of his major investments that would be resolved within days. My cousin Tommy was at the wedding. Apparently, he made the guest list just fine, despite being far less financially successful than me. And he started sending me real-time text updates that were better than any movie I could have watched. Dude, there are people in expensive suits here who are definitely not wedding guests. They're talking to Brad in the corner, and he looks absolutely panicked. Holy crap. I think those were representatives from the venue. Brad just disappeared with Ashley into some back room, and when they came out 5 minutes later, she was crying, and her makeup was completely ruined. The wedding coordinator just made an announcement that there's going to be a brief delay in the ceremony, but people are starting to whisper, and some guests are actually leaving. This is getting chaotic. Ashley's bridesmaids are all crying now and consoling her. Brad's family looks furious and embarrassed. Someone just said the venue is threatening to shut everything down. I ordered more room service, this incredible steak dinner with lobster, and kept reading the updates with growing satisfaction. Brad just gathered everyone together and announced that his business partner embezzled money from their company accounts, and he can't make the venue payment. Ashley started screaming at him in front of literally everyone. The venue manager just kicked everyone out. All 195 guests are standing in the parking lot in their formal wear with nowhere to go. Ashley is having a complete breakdown, and Brad's family is pretending they don't know him. I took a screenshot of that last message and saved it to my phone. Sometimes the universe delivers justice in the most poetic ways possible. Sunday morning, I woke up naturally. No alarm, no stress, no family drama, to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my suite. I made coffee with the fancy machine they'd provided, stepped out onto my private balcony, and checked my phone for the first time since Friday night. 52 missed calls, 127 text messages, voicemails from Ashley, Mom, various relatives, and even some numbers I didn't recognize. Probably wedding guests wanting to know what had happened, and if there was going to be some kind of makeup event. I settled into the comfortable lounge chair on my balcony, coffee in hand, mountain lake stretching out in front of me, and started returning some calls. This was going to be entertaining. First call, Ashley. She answered before the first ring even finished. Jake! Oh my God, Jake! Thank God you're answering. Please, I desperately need your help. Everything fell apart yesterday, and I don't know what to do, and everyone's asking questions and... Slow down, Ashley. Take a breath. What exactly happened? The wedding was completely canceled. Brad lied about everything, Jake. Everything! He's completely broke. Like, actually, totally broke. The venue is threatening to sue us for the balance. The catering company wants their money. All the vendors are demanding immediate payment, and I don't have anything, and I don't know what to do. And that sounds really stressful, I said calmly, taking a leisurely sip of my coffee while watching a family of ducks swim across the lake. But I'm sure you and Brad will figure something out together. Jake, Brad's gone. He left Saturday night, just packed all his stuff and disappeared. His phone goes straight to voicemail. His family won't talk to me. And I found out his apartment is being repossessed, and his car is being repossessed, and I need to borrow money from you. I need like $75,000 to cover all the vendor costs, or they're going to take me to court and destroy my credit. I nearly choked on my coffee trying not to laugh out loud. The audacity was breathtaking. You need $75,000? I know it's a lot, but you're literally the only person I know who has that kind of money readily available, and I'm absolutely desperate here. I'll pay you back every single penny, I swear on Dad's grave. I'll get a real job, like a serious full-time job, and I'll pay you back with interest. And Ashley, I interrupted her rambling, where was my wedding invitation? Complete silence on the other end of the line. I could practically hear her brain trying to figure out how to respond. Where was my invitation to your wedding, Ashley? Jake, I know I made a mistake, okay? I realize now that I messed up really badly. I was stressed and overwhelmed, and Brad was pressuring me, and his family had all these opinions and expectations, and You told Mom that I would embarrass you in front of Brad's wealthy family. I never said that exactly. That's not what I meant. Mom told me word for word what you said, Ashley. That his family thought I wouldn't fit in with their social circle. That you were worried about my social standing and how I might make you look bad in front of their country club friends. That's not, I mean, look, Jake, I was wrong, okay? I was completely wrong, and I'm really, really sorry. But right now, I desperately need your help, and no. What? No, Ashley, I'm not helping you this time. Jake, please, you don't understand how serious this is. They're going to sue me. My credit will be completely destroyed. I might lose my apartment. I could end up homeless, and sounds like you should have thought about those consequences before you decided I wasn't good enough for your perfect wedding. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. The phone rang again within 30 seconds, Mom calling. Jake, thank God you answered. Ashley called me crying hysterically. She told me what happened with the wedding. This is a complete disaster, and she really needs our help right now. She needs my help, you mean? When's the last time you sent Ashley any money, Mom? That's not the point here, Jake. She's family. And when family is in serious trouble, we help each other. That's what family does. I'm family too, Mom. I'm family too. But that didn't stop either of you from supporting the decision to exclude me from the most important day of her life. Jake, please don't be petty about this. Your sister is in real financial and legal trouble. Those vendors are serious about pursuing legal action. Good. Maybe she'll finally learn that actions have consequences, and you can't just charm your way out of every problem. How can you be so cold and heartless? This is your sister we're talking about. Yeah, maybe she should have remembered that before she decided I was an embarrassment to her social climbing aspirations. I hung up and blocked Mom's number too. Over the next several hours, I received calls from various relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, all attempting to guilt me into helping Ashley out of her financial crisis. Each time I told them the same thing. She made a deliberate choice about what kind of family relationship she wanted with me, and now she gets to live with the consequences of that choice. Tuesday morning, I got a call from an unknown number with a local area code. Is this Jake? Who's asking? This is Brad. Look, man, I know we haven't actually met in person, but I really need to talk to you about helping Ashley out of this situation. This whole thing got completely out of hand and spiraled beyond anyone's control and, oh, you're the Brad who convinced my sister that I wasn't good enough for your wedding? Look, that wasn't really my decision. That was more about family dynamics and social expectations that were beyond my control. Actually, Brad, I have some free advice for you. There's an excellent bankruptcy attorney downtown. Her office is on LaSalle Street. You should probably give her a call as soon as possible. You're going to need serious professional help. What's that supposed to mean? It means word travels incredibly fast in business and investment circles when someone's been lying about their financial situation and personal character. I'd start updating that resume if I were you. The crypto industry in Chicago is smaller than you think, and people definitely talk to each other. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you practical advice. You made enemies of the wrong people when you decided to exclude family members from important life events. Now you get to learn what it feels like when your social network decides you don't fit in with their values. I hung up and blocked that number too. By Wednesday, Ashley was calling from Mom's phone, then from random numbers belonging to friends, then getting other people to call on her behalf. Each conversation followed the same pattern: desperate begging, promises to change, attempts to guilt me into fixing her self-created problems. Each time I said no and hung up. Thursday afternoon, I got a text update from Tommy. Dude, Ashley's moving back in with your mom in Arizona. Brad completely vanished. Apparently, he owes money to some serious people and had to leave town. His company folded, and Ashley's asking literally everyone she knows if they're hiring for anything. I screenshot that message and sent it to my group chat with my college friends, along with the caption, "When keeping it fake goes horribly wrong." Friday morning, Tommy sent another update. Ashley's working at a chain restaurant now as a server. Tips only, no guaranteed salary. Your mom is making her pay rent to live in the spare bedroom. The Instagram influencer thing dried up completely after the wedding disaster went viral on social media. Her follower count dropped to like 20,000. When I finally returned home from my extended weekend on Sunday evening, there were wilted flowers on my doorstep, soggy from rain. Multiple cards from Ashley apologizing and begging for forgiveness. Voicemails where she's crying about how sorry she is and how she'll do anything to make things right, and how she realizes now how much I've always meant to her, and how she can't survive without my support. I threw the dead flowers directly in the trash without reading the cards, and deleted all the voicemails without listening to them. Because here's the fundamental truth that Reddit needs to understand. I didn't destroy Ashley's life. I didn't sabotage her wedding or ruin her relationship. I simply stopped enabling her poor decisions and allowed reality to catch up with the choices she'd been making for years. Story 4. This story is titled, My Stepmother Demanded That I Pay Rent to Live in My Own House while her children lived there for free. When I refused, she tried to convince my father to kick me out, so I made her regret it. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and support. I'll try to answer questions in the comments. Also to the people saying this is fake, I wish it was LOL. And yes, I have proof, but won't share it for legal reasons. Edit 2. Since people keep asking, I'm 22 female, dad is 46 male, stepmom Karen is 43 female, stepbro Tyler is 25 male, and stepsister Ashley is 21 female. Yes, those aren't their real names for obvious reasons. Okay, so buckle up because this is going to be a long one. Seriously, grab some popcorn or whatever because there's a lot to unpack here. I've been holding this in for weeks and really need to get it off my chest. Some background info you guys need first. Trust me, it's important for later. I lost my mom to breast cancer when I was 8. It sucked obviously, but we managed. My dad was completely destroyed though. Like, he could barely function for the first year. My mom's parents, absolute saints BTW, stepped up big time. They basically moved in with us to help take care of me, while my dad worked through his grief and tried to keep his business running. Quick note about the house situation because it's super important later. My grandparents were pretty well off. Not like mega rich or anything, but comfortable enough to buy this huge 4-bedroom house in one of the nicer neighborhoods near Boston. The idea was that we'd all live together so they could help raise me properly. It worked great for a while, TBH, but then my dad met Karen, not her real name, but it fits her perfectly LMAO, at some business conference in Chicago, about 2 years after mom died. He was there trying to expand his consulting business or whatever, and she was working as an event coordinator. According to him, they just clicked. I guess Karen saw her chance with a grieving widower who owned his own business, because she literally moved across the country to be with him after only knowing each other for like 3 months. And surprise, surprise, they got married within 6 months of meeting. Talk about red flags. Here's where it gets fun. Karen brought her 2 kids with her. Tyler, 25 million now, was 11 at the time and already a spoiled brat. Ashley, 21F now, was 7 and honestly wasn't too bad at first. But Karen turned her into a mini clone of herself over the years. My grandparents tried to be nice about it. They really did. But I remember overhearing them talking late at night about how they didn't trust Karen. They thought she was just after Dad's money. Plot twist, they were right. But they kept quiet for Dad's sake because he seemed happy for the first time since Mom died. The first few years were rough. Karen started small with her BS. Little comments about how the house was decorated old-fashioned. It wasn't. How the kitchen needed updating. It didn't. How my grandparents were set in their ways. They weren't. But then she got bolder. She started rearranging furniture without asking, threw out some of Mom's old decorations claiming they were collecting dust, and slowly started taking over the house. My grandparents were too polite to say anything, and Dad was too love-blind to notice. Then the chores started. At first it seemed normal. Everyone should help around the house, right? Except everyone turned into just me. Tyler was too busy with sports. He sucked at basketball, but Karen made Dad pay for private coaching anyway. Ashley was too young. Even though she was only a year younger than me, by the time I was 12, I was doing most of the cooking and cleaning. Karen would literally check the baseboards with her finger to see if I'd dusted properly. Meanwhile, Tyler's room smelled like a combination of Axe body spray and old pizza, and Ashley's floor was permanently covered in clothes she was about to put away. Here's the really important part that I didn't know until recently. Before my grandparents passed away, Grandma in 2019 from heart problems, Grandpa followed barely 3 months later because he couldn't live without her. They put the house in my name. Like, legally it's mine. All mine. They must have seen this drama coming from a mile away and wanted to protect me. But I didn't know about it. No one told me. Dad knew, but I guess he didn't think it was important to mention. Spoiler alert. It was very important. Karen obviously had no clue either. Or she would have tried to get her name on the deed somehow. So for the past few years, I've basically been living as a servant in my own house. Cooking, cleaning, doing everyone's laundry, yes, even Tyler's nasty gym clothes, while Karen sat on her ass watching Real Housewives and complaining about how I loaded the dishwasher wrong. Tyler graduated college 2 years ago. Barely. Pretty sure dad paid someone off TBH and hasn't worked a single day since. He claims he's trying to be a content creator, but his TikTok has like 200 followers, and it's all just him doing those cringe dance trends badly. Ashley's in her third year of college, supposedly studying business, but really just partying and posting aesthetic Instagram pics of her Starbucks cups. Dad pays for everything. Her apartment near campus, which she barely uses because she's always at home. Her car, which she crashed twice. Her credit cards, which she maxes out monthly. And there I was, working part-time at Starbucks while taking online classes, doing all the housework, and trying to save up money because Karen kept hinting that I needed to start contributing to the household. The day everything went down started like any other crappy day in my house. I had just finished an 8-hour shift at Starbucks. Some Karen, lowercase k LOL, yelled at me about almond milk, but that's another story. And I was exhausted. But of course, I still had to come home and cook dinner, because heaven forbid Tyler moves from his gaming chair or Ashley puts down her phone. I'm in the kitchen, making this pasta recipe I found on TikTok. NGL, it actually slaps. And Karen comes strutting in wearing one of her supposedly designer outfits. Pretty sure it's from Ross, but whatever. She's got this look on her face. You know the one? Like when a teacher catches you passing notes in class? Yeah, that one. She sits down at the kitchen island, watching me cook like a hawk. I'm already on edge because she always finds something to criticize about my cooking. Last week it was too much garlic. Literally impossible BTW. The week before it was too spicy. It was literally Alfredo sauce. Then she drops this bomb on me. We need to have a serious discussion about your living situation. I'm like, 'cause what living situation? I've been here longer than you, lady. But she continues, your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time you start paying rent. After all, you're working now, and it's not fair for you to live here for free while we cover all the expenses. Y'all. The audacity of this woman. I'm literally standing there, wooden spoon in hand, sauce probably burning. It was. Just trying to process this BS. Meanwhile, I can hear Tyler upstairs screaming about his KD ratio in COD, and Ashley's TikTok sounds are blasting from the living room. So I ask her, trying to keep my voice level because I'm petty, but not stupid, what about Tyler and Ashley? Are they paying rent too? She does this thing where she dabs her mouth with a napkin, even though she hasn't eaten anything. She learned it from Real Housewives, ISTG. Then she hits me with, well, that's different. They're my children, and they're still getting established in life. Tyler is working on his content creation career, and Ashley is focused on her studies. I almost laughed out loud. Tyler's content creation career consists of badly lip-syncing to trending sounds and playing Fortnite on Twitch for literally 3 viewers. Pretty sure one is his mom and another is his alt account. And Ashley's studies? Girl hasn't opened a textbook since freshman year orientation. But here's where it gets good. Karen starts laying out her reasonable rent requirements. $800 a month? In this economy? Plus utilities, plus I would still be expected to help out around the house, aka continue being their maid. I'm standing there, stirring this pasta sauce, and something in me just snaps. You know that moment in movies where everything goes quiet and clear? It was like that. All these years of being treated like Cinderella, all the snide comments, all the extra chores, all the times I had to wash Tyler's crusty gym socks or pick up Ashley's fake lashes from the bathroom floor. It all just hit me at once. So I turn off the stove, safety first LOL, put down the spoon, and look Karen dead in her over-Botoxed face. Let me get this straight, I say, and my voice is weirdly calm. Tyler, who hasn't earned a single dollar since graduation and spends his days yelling at 12-year-olds on Xbox, doesn't have to pay rent. Ashley, who maxes out her credit cards buying Shein hauls and has never touched a vacuum in her life, doesn't have to pay rent. But I do? Karen's face does this weird twitchy thing, probably the Botox fighting with her facial muscles. She starts going on about how I'm more established and how family helps family, and some other BS she probably read in a Facebook mom group. That's when I decided to drop my own bomb. But first, I called everyone to the dining room, told Karen I wanted to discuss this as a family, used her own manipulative tactics against her LMAO. Tyler whined about leaving his game, and Ashley acted like getting off the couch was literal torture. But eventually, everyone was sitting at the table. The pasta was cold by this point, but I didn't care. I had lost my appetite anyway. Karen starts explaining her proposal to everyone, acting all official like she's some kind of CEO. Tyler's smirking, probably thinking about how he can spend his allowance on more V-Bucks, now that I'll be paying the bills. Ashley's recording everything for her private story. Girl loves drama, as long as it's not about her. And that's when I did it. That's when I said the words that changed everything. I'm not paying rent because this house belongs to me. The silence that followed. OMG. I wish I had recorded it. You guys, I wish I had a picture of their faces. It was like I'd just spoken an alien language or something. Tyler actually stopped mid-bite, his fork just hanging there with spaghetti falling back onto his plate. Gross. Ashley's jaw literally dropped. First genuine expression I've seen on her face since she discovered filters. But Karen? Oh man, Karen's reaction was priceless. You know that loading wheel you get when your computer freezes? That was her face. Like her brain literally couldn't process what I'd just said. Then they all started laughing. Like, full-on hysterical laughing. Good one, Tyler snorts. Pasta sauce on his chin. I swear this dude eats like a toddler. Did you get that from TikTok or something? Ashley's already got her phone out, probably thinking this would make great content for her Relatable Family Moments series, which has like 50 followers max. Karen's trying to laugh too, but I can see the panic starting to set in. She's got that look she gets when her credit card gets declined at Nordstrom Rack. Happens more than you'd think. What are you talking about? She tries to sound dismissive, but her voice is shaking. This house is mine and your father's. This is where it gets good. I just lean back in my chair, trying to channel that calm villain energy, and say, why don't you call Dad and ask him? Karen's fake nails start tapping on her iPhone screen so fast, I thought she might crack it. Kinda wished she would TBH, because guess who would have to go get it fixed? Ugh. She puts it on speaker because of course she does. She loves an audience when she thinks she's about to win an argument. The phone rings a few times and then Dad picks up. He sounds tired, probably because he was actually working while his stepson was building his brand or whatever. David? Karen's voice is all sweet and fake, like when she's trying to get an upgrade at a hotel. Ruby is telling some interesting stories about the house. She says it belongs to her. That's not true, right? The silence that followed? Deafening. You could literally hear my dad doing that thing where he clears his throat when he's uncomfortable. He does it a lot around Karen. Then finally, well, actually, my in-laws put the house in Ruby's name before they passed away. Boom. Karen's face went through more colors than my old mood ring from Claire's. First red, then white, then this weird greenish color I've never seen on a human before. What do you mean they put it in her name? She's practically screeching now. When were you going to tell me this? I didn't think it was important, my dad says weakly. Typical dad move, TBH. Not important? Karen's standing up now, her chair scraping against the floor. You didn't think it was important to tell me that your teenage daughter owns our house? She hangs up on him mid-sentence. The phone hits the table so hard, I thought the screen would crack. Again, kind of hoped it would. Tyler's not laughing anymore. Actually, he's looking pretty pale. Probably realizing that all those times he told me to get out of his game room, it was actually my game room. Ashley's still recording, but now she's got this deer in headlights look. I can practically see the TikTok drafts being deleted in her mind. Karen's breathing like she just ran a marathon in her fake Louboutins. She's trying to compose herself, but I can see her hands shaking. Well, she says, attempting to sound calm but failing hard, this has clearly been a misunderstanding. Of course you don't have to pay rent, Ruby. Let's just forget this conversation happened. But here's the thing. I didn't want to forget. I was done forgetting all the BS they'd put me through over the years. Done being the family doormat. Done watching them live rent-free in my house while treating me like their personal maid. So I just smiled and said, oh, we're definitely not forgetting this conversation. In fact, I paused for dramatic effect. What can I say? I've learned from the best. I think it's time we had a serious discussion about your living situation. The look of pure terror on Karen's face. Better than any Christmas present I've ever gotten. But wait, it gets even better. Because while they're all sitting there processing their new reality, I can hear Karen's phone buzzing with texts from my dad. She's ignoring it, but I know exactly what's happening. He's probably panic texting her about all the legal documents my grandparents left, the ones that prove everything I just said. All right, so after that nuclear dinner scene, I went to bed feeling pretty good about myself. Like, you know that feeling when you finally stand up to your high school bully? Multiple that by 1,000, and that's how I felt. But Karen? Oh no, she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. So next morning, I'm about to head downstairs for breakfast when I hear Karen's voice coming from the kitchen. She's on the phone with my dad, on speaker because of course. And guess what she's doing? Y'all, this woman is literally trying to convince my dad to get me to move out of my own house. Here's the convo I overheard. And yes, I recorded it on my phone because at this point I trust these people about as far as I can throw them. Karen. David, You need to do something about this situation. Your daughter is becoming a problem. Dad, sounding tired af. What do you want me to do? Karen, what about those out-of-state colleges she applied to? You could encourage her to go to one of them. Tell her it'd be good for her independence. The audacity of this woman, I swear to God. She's really out here trying to ship me off to another state so she can keep living in my house rent-free. But wait, it gets better. Dad, I don't know, Karen. Karen, using that syrupy, sweet voice she uses when she's manipulating someone. Think about it, David. She's young. She needs to experience life away from home. And honestly, dramatic pause, I'm worried about her mental health. All this anger she's carrying around, it's not healthy. Excuse me? The only thing affecting my mental health is living with the evil stepmother from every Disney movie combined. But here's the part that really got me. Dad, maybe you're right. I'll talk to her about moving out for college. It might be better for everyone. I literally had to bite my fist to keep from screaming. My own dad, who I've lived with my whole life, who I took care of after Mom died, who I cooked for and cleaned for, just agreed to try to kick me out of my own house. So I did what any rational person would do. I walked into that kitchen like I hadn't heard a thing. Karen almost dropped her phone when she saw me. She was still in her silk robe, probably fake like everything else about her, holding her world's best mom coffee mug. Tyler and Ashley got it for her from the dollar store last Mother's Day, and she acts like it's fine china. Good morning, sweetie, she chirps, like she wasn't just plotting to get rid of me. I made coffee. First of all, she didn't make coffee. She put a K-cup in the Keurig I bought with my Starbucks money. Second of all, sweetie? Since when? Tyler stumbles in looking like a zombie, probably up all night streaming to his 3 viewers. And Ashley follows shortly after, already fully camera ready. Takes her 2 hours every morning, I kid you not. We're all sitting there eating breakfast, which I made BTW. Karen doesn't know how to cook anything that doesn't come from a microwave. And the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Tyler's shoveling cereal in his mouth while scrolling through TikTok. Ashley's taking pictures of her untouched avocado toast for Instagram. And Karen's pretending to read emails on her phone. But I can see she's actually Googling how to evict someone who owns your house. Not very subtle with the phone angle, Karen. That's when I decided to have some fun. Hey, Karen, I say, super casual. I was thinking about what you said yesterday about rent. She perks up like a meerkat, probably thinking I'm about to back down. I think you're right. People should pay rent to live here. The look of relief on her face lasted about 2 seconds before I dropped the bomb. So I've been doing some calculations. Based on market rates in our area, I think $1,200 per person is fair. That's $3,600 for you, Tyler and Ashley. Of course, that doesn't include utilities. Oh, and there will be a security deposit. Chaos. Absolute chaos. Tyler actually choked on his frosted flakes. Ashley's avocado toast fell face down on her new white crop top. Karma is real, folks. And Karen? Karen looked like she was about to pass out. You can't be serious, she sputters. We're family. Oh, I'm dead serious. And since you brought up family, I pull out my phone, where I've got the recording of her morning conversation with Dad queued up. Let's talk about your little plan to ship me off to college. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she was gonna faint. Tyler and Ashley are looking between us like they're watching a tennis match. So after I played that recording of Karen's phone call, things got wild. Like Jerry Springer level wild. Karen jumps up from her chair so fast she knocks over her precious world's best mom mug. Sadly, it didn't break. She's doing this weird thing with her face where she's trying to look angry, but her Botox is fighting back. And honestly, it's kinda hilarious. You recorded me? She screeches. That's illegal. I just smile and say, actually, we live in a one-party consent state. I checked. Also, my house, my rules. Tyler's just sitting there with his mouth open, milk dribbling down his chin. ISTG, this dude never learned how to eat properly. Ashley's frantically texting someone, probably her TikTok group chat, where she pretends to be rich and unbothered. Karen starts pacing around the kitchen, her knockoff Gucci slides making that annoying flip-flop sound on the tile floor that I cleaned yesterday, BTW. She's muttering something about calling her lawyer cousin. You know, the one who specializes in real estate law, but actually just does DUI cases in some strip mall office. Then she tries a different approach. Suddenly her voice gets all soft and concerned, like when she's trying to get a refund without a receipt. Ruby, sweetie, I know you're upset, but this behavior, it's not healthy. Your father and I are just trying to help you. Maybe some time away would be good for you. There's this lovely college in Michigan. I cut her off right there. Karen, let me make something very clear. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. The deed is in my name. And if anyone's going to be leaving, it won't be me. That's when she lost it completely. You ungrateful little... Not gonna repeat what she called me, but let's just say it wasn't very world's best mom of her. She starts going off about how she raised me like her own by making me their maid, how she sacrificed everything to be a good stepmom by shopping at TJ Maxx instead of Nordstrom, and how I'm tearing this family apart. What family? Meanwhile, Tyler and Ashley are having their own meltdowns. Tyler: this is bulls. I'm not paying rent. I'm about to blow up on Twitch. Narrator: he was not about to blow up on Twitch. Ashley: Daddy won't let you do this. He loves us more than this stupid house. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. I just sit there, sipping my coffee. That I made because Karen still can't figure out how to use the French press, watching them spiral. It's like every bit of entitlement and privilege they've been harboring is just spewing out. Then Karen pulls out her trump card. She grabs her phone and starts calling my dad again, probably expecting him to rush home and fix everything like he usually does. But plot twist, I've been texting with Dad all morning. Sent him the recording, explained everything. For once in his life, he's actually backing me up. Kinda, in his own weak way. When he answers, he's on speaker again. Karen: David, you need to come home right now. Your daughter is out of control. Dad, sounding surprisingly firm: Karen, we need to respect that it's her house. Maybe we should start looking for a new place. The silence that followed. OMG, you could hear Tyler's brain cells trying to process this betrayal. All three of them. Karen's face goes through this fascinating journey. Shock, anger, disbelief, and finally, fear. Real fear. Because it's finally hitting her. She's about to lose everything. The cushy life, the free ride, the power trip she's been on for years. That's when she makes her biggest mistake. She turns to me, gets right in my face, and says, "Listen here, you little ba. I don't care whose name is on the deed. This is my house. I've lived here for 12 years, and no spoiled brat is going to kick me out. I will make your life hell. Perfect. Just perfect. Because guess what? I've been recording this whole conversation too. Not only that, but I had already talked to a lawyer, shout out to r/legal advice for the recommendations. Turns out threatening the legal owner of your residence isn't a great idea. Who knew? Okay, so remember how I mentioned talking to a lawyer? Best decision ever. Turns out my grandparents didn't just put the house in my name. They set up this whole legal thing, trust, estate, IDK legal terms, that basically makes it impossible for anyone to contest it. My lawyer literally laughed when she saw Karen's legal threats in the texts I showed her. But let me back up a bit. The day after Karen's little meltdown, I went nuclear. Served them all with real eviction papers. Like official court documents and everything. The look on Karen's face when she got served? Priceless. She actually tried to refuse to take the papers. But apparently that's not how it works. Thanks, Reddit. Tyler's reaction was exactly what you'd expect. He threw his gaming chair down the stairs and broke it. Elmau karma. Ashley had a full Instagram live meltdown. Gained like 200 followers though. So congrats, I guess. But Karen. Oh man, Karen went full psycho. First, she tried calling every lawyer in town. Like, literally every single one. But here's the thing about small town lawyers. They all know each other. And after the first couple told her she had no case, word got around. Even her DUI cousin wouldn't touch it. Then she tried the social media route. Posted this long, dramatic Facebook status about how her ungrateful stepdaughter was trying to make her family homeless. But that backfired hard when one of my mom's old friends commented with receipts about how Karen had treated me over the years. Side note, shout out to my mom's friend Sarah, who's been keeping screenshots of Karen's BS for years. The hero we didn't know we needed. The best part? Karen's fancy friends from her country club started distancing themselves. Turns out they don't like associating with someone who's about to be homeless. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, Tyler and Ashley are having their own crisis. Tyler finally realized that being a content creator isn't actually a job when you have 247 followers and your main content is raging at Fortnite. He tried applying for real jobs, but turns out professional gamer, unofficial, doesn't look great on a resume. Ashley's sorority friends found out about everything because she posted it all on her private story, but has like 200 followers. Now they're all gossiping about how her designer bags were probably fake and her dad isn't actually rich. She's having a full identity crisis. But the real drama? That came when Karen tried her last desperate move. She waited until I was at work and tried to rearrange some things in the house. By rearrange, I mean she tried to take some of my mom's old jewelry that my grandparents had left for me. Unfortunately for her, I had already installed security cameras after the eviction notice. Again, thanks Reddit for the advice. Got her on video clear as day, trying to stuff my mom's antique necklaces into her tacky Michael Kors bag. Called the cops, filed a report, showed them the footage. Y'all should have seen Karen trying to explain to the police officer why she was just moving jewelry that didn't belong to her. Her fake tears didn't work this time, probably because her mascara wasn't even running. Waterproof makeup really ruins the dramatic effect. The officer was this older lady who took one look at the situation and was not having it, especially when Karen tried to play the "but we're family" card. Officer: Ma'am, attempting to steal from the legal owner of this house isn't a family matter. I didn't press charges yet, because honestly, having this on record for the eviction case is better. My lawyer was thrilled. Speaking of the eviction, remember how Karen always bragged about her investment accounts and how she was independently wealthy before meeting my dad? Yeah, turns out that was all BS. She has literally nowhere to go, and she's freaking out. She tried calling my dad's sister for help, but my aunt, who never liked Karen, just sent her a link to apartment listings in the sketchy part of town. I actually felt bad for half a second, until I remembered the time Karen accidentally donated my mom's Christmas ornaments to Goodwill. The worst part? My dad finally grew a spine. Kind of. He told Karen that if she doesn't leave peacefully, he's not going with her. Turns out 12 years of her toxic BS was enough even for him. I will update you guys when they leave. Final update. So after the whole jewelry theft attempt, Karen knew she was screwed. But being Karen, she had to make the exit as dramatic as possible. The day before the final eviction deadline, she tries one last power play. Calls this family meeting. Mao, what family? And comes strutting in wearing her fake Chanel suit, the one with the obvious wrong pattern that she swears is vintage. She's got this whole speech prepared about how she's choosing to leave because she can't stand the negativity, or whatever. Karen starts this whole monologue about how she's taking the high road. Since when is being legally evicted taking the high road? Then she drops what she thinks is her trump card. Your father and I have decided to move to Florida. We just bought a beautiful house in Tampa, much nicer than this old place. First of all, they didn't buy anything. I literally saw her GoFundMe for Family in Crisis Needs Housing that got exactly $43 in donations, mostly from her MLM group. Second, my dad wasn't even there for this announcement because he was at a hotel. Turns out watching your wife try to steal your dead wife's jewelry is kind of a mood killer. Who knew? But here's where it gets good. While Karen's doing her fake graceful exit speech, the moving guys I hired start showing up. Like, right in the middle of her "this house was beneath me anyway" rant, there's these big dudes walking in with boxes and dollies. Karen's face does that weird frozen thing again. Botox plus rage equals comedy gold. She starts screaming about how she wasn't ready and needed more time to sort her belongings. The head mover guy, shout out to Mike, you're a real one, just looks at her and goes, "Ma'am, we have strict instructions. Everything gets packed and moved to your storage unit today. If you want your stuff, you'll need to take it up with the court." Y'all. She lost it. Full nuclear meltdown. Started grabbing random stuff, claiming it was family heirlooms, including my mom's ceramic bowl that she literally tried to throw away last year. Ashley's crying about her TikTok backdrop being ruined. Tyler's having a panic attack because he can't disconnect his gaming setup fast enough. But here's the best part. Remember that designer stuff Karen was always bragging about? The vintage bags and premium clothes? The movers start packing it up and half the labels are literally falling off. While all this is happening, I'm just sitting on my couch, drinking my coffee, in my house, watching them scramble. Posted a few updates to my private story, and suddenly all these people from high school are sliding into my DMs like, "OMG, I always knew she was fake." Final inventory of what they tried to steal on their way out. 3 of my mom's necklaces, caught on camera. My grandma's china set, also on camera. The good coffee maker, bitch, I bought that with my Starbucks money. Every single towel in the house. Weird flex, but okay. The garage door opener, seriously? But you know what? They can have the towels. I already ordered new ones. Really nice ones that Karen would have said were too expensive while dropping $500 on her fake designer stuff. The actual eviction? Chef's kiss, perfect. They had to do the walkthrough with the sheriff's deputy present. Standard procedure, but extra satisfying. Karen tried to claim I damaged her things during the move. The deputy just pointed to my security cameras and asked if she wanted to file a false report. She shut up real quick. So where are they now? Karen and my dad are staying at her sister's 2-bedroom apartment in the next town over. Apparently, it's not going great. Her sister posted on Facebook about ungrateful house guests who don't do dishes. Tyler had to sell his gaming setup to pay for a deposit on a room in some sketchy house share. He's working at GameStop now, which honestly might be good for him. Ashley moved in with her sorority sisters, but that lasted about a week before they got sick of her crying. Now she's commuting 2 hours to college from her mom's sister's place. Her latest TikTok is about being humbled, but still getting ratioed in the comments. As for me, the house is so peaceful now. Like, weirdly peaceful. No more fake designer perfumes smell everywhere. No more passive-aggressive notes about loading the dishwasher correctly. No more 3 a.m. screaming from Tyler's gaming sessions. I turned his old room into my home office. Already decorated it with actual designer stuff because I can afford it now that I'm not paying for their groceries. Ashley's room is becoming my dream closet, and Karen's meditation room, where she watched Real Housewives all day, is now my yoga studio. Dad calls sometimes. He's staying with Karen, for now. But honestly, he sounds tired. I think he's finally realizing what everyone else knew 12 years ago, that he married a gold digger who isn't even good at gold digging. Was I too harsh? Maybe. Do I regret it? Nope. They fucked around. They found out. Turns out karma doesn't care about your fake Gucci slides. Final update, my mom's best friend Sarah is renting one of the spare rooms now, so I'm not alone in this big house. She's teaching me all mom's old recipes and helping me replace everything Karen threw out over the years. Sometimes good things come from bad situations. Thanks for following this journey, Reddit. Y'all really helped me stay strong through this. Especially the legal advice folks. You guys rock. Edit. Holy crap, this really is the end. Thanks for all the support through this crazy journey. You guys are amazing. Edit 2. Stop asking me to post the security camera footage. I'm not trying to get banned, LOL. Final edit. Yes, this is real. No, I won't prove it because privacy. And yes, I'm in therapy now. Story 5. This story is titled, My Sister and Her Fiancé Laughed at Me for Paying Their Bills For, so I cut them off and now they need my help. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Edit. Holy crap, this absolutely exploded overnight. RIP my inbox. I'm trying to respond to comments, but there are literally thousands. Thanks for all the awards. Though maybe save your money instead of giving Reddit more? That's kind of the point of this story, LOL. Quick note before I start. Names changed for obvious reasons, and throwaway account because my sister's still obsessed with Reddit. Also, this is going to be a long one, so grab your popcorn. Some background about me before I dive into this dumpster fire. I'm 27 male, working as a software developer at a mid-sized tech company in Austin. Not F-ang money. Trust me, I wish. But I do okay for myself. Grew up as the awkward middle child. You know the type. Straight A's, built computers for fun, got picked last in gym class. Meanwhile, my older sister Emma, 29 female, was the stereotypical golden child. Varsity everything. Homecoming queen, the whole package. Our youngest brother Jake, 24 male, somehow managed to fly under the radar during all of this. Lucky kid. So picture this. It's January 2023, and I'm finally hitting my stride career-wise. After grinding through a 6-month coding bootcamp back in 2019, while working help desk tickets during the day, do not recommend, I'd worked my way up from junior dev to just landing a senior position. We're talking about a jump to around $120,000 a year, which honestly still feels surreal for a guy who was making $15 an hour at Best Buy 4 years ago. I mention the money thing because it's important context. See, I grew up watching my parents stress about bills, so I've always been super careful with money. My apartment's nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom in a decent part of town. My car's a 2018 Honda Civic I bought used. Her name's Ada, after Ada Lovelace. Yes, I'm that kind of nerd. Most of my cash goes straight into index funds and my 401k, because that's what all the finance subreddits told me to do. Emma, though, man, Emma's a different story. Remember those people from high school who peaked during senior year and never really adjusted to the real world? That's my sister. She was working as a personal trainer at one of those luxury gym chains. You know, the ones with eucalyptus towels and whatever the hell a recovery lounge is, making maybe $45,000 a year if she was lucky. Her fiancé Ryan was supposedly this up-and-coming real estate agent, always talking about his massive deals that were just around the corner. Their Instagram feed looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. Always at the newest restaurants, matching Lululemon outfits, constant weekend trips to trendy Airbnbs. They were renting this ridiculous house in one of Austin's hip neighborhoods. We're talking $4,000 a month for that modern farmhouse look that's everywhere here. But if you knew what they actually made, well, let's just say the math wasn't mathing. Then came the call trademark. It's like 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm in the middle of a League of Legends match. Yes, I still play, judge away. And Emma's calling. Now, Emma never calls me unless she needs something, so I already knew this wasn't going to be good. She's full on crying, can barely get the words out. Turns out they're 3 months behind on utilities, maxed out 4 credit cards. 4! And their rent check is about to bounce. Ryan's big deals had all fallen through, and his broker was threatening to pull his license if he didn't start closing something soon. Being the certified that I am, I felt bad. Like, genuinely bad. Maybe it was residual guilt from all those times she stuck up for me when kids were being jerks in middle school. Maybe it was because she actually said, I need your help for the first time in ever? Or maybe I'm just a sucker. But I offered to help, just until Ryan's next deal closes, she said. Maybe 2 or 3 months tops? She needed $2,000 to catch up on rent and get the utility companies off their backs. That's not nothing, but I had it in savings. And family's family, right? I sent the money that night, even helped her set up a budgeting spreadsheet that she never opened, and suggested some ways to cut back that she ignored completely. But hey, at least I tried to be responsible about it. Here's where I made my first mistake. I let it become a regular thing. Every month, Emma would send a Venmo request, sometimes with a heart emoji, sometimes with a, "You're the best brother ever." Once she even sent a photo of their dog with a sign saying, "Thank you, Uncle, my name," which I'll admit was pretty cute. But looking back, it was all just manipulation. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that Ryan would start closing deals again. Spoiler, he wouldn't. That Emma would finally stick to a budget. Spoiler, she didn't. That they'd get their shit together and stop needing their nerdy little brother to bail them out. Biggest spoiler, nope. Instead, I watched through their social media as my money funded their perfect life. While I was meal prepping chicken and rice, they were posting stories from $200 sushi dinners. While I was putting off buying a new graphics card, Emma was showing off her new Dyson Airwrap. Took me 20 minutes of Googling to figure out what that even was. Apparently, it's a $600 hairdryer. The worst part? I actually defended them when my friends pointed out the red flags. They're just bad with money, I'd say. They need guidance. Family's gotta stick together. God, I can't believe how naive I was. But as time went on, she got more, let's say, comfortable with the arrangement. The requests started coming with zero context, just the money amount, and usually some BS emoji combination like, or "You're the best brother ever" star. One time she even had the audacity to mark it as urgent because they wanted to book a limited time deal on a weekend trip to the hill country. You know? Because that's totally what emergency financial aid is for. Here's what really gets me though. I was actually making sacrifices to help them. Real ones. I had been saving up for a down payment on a house because Austin rent is getting ridiculous, but that fund basically became the Emma and Ryan support fund. I cut my 401k contributions from 15% to 6% just to keep my own emergency fund intact. My gaming PC is still running a GTX 1080 because I kept putting off upgrades. Hell, I even switched to store-brand coffee. Fellow developers will understand what a sacrifice that is. Meanwhile, their Instagram feed looked like a freaking lifestyle influencer's highlight reel. Let me paint you a picture of what my $2,000 was actually funding. October 2023. Emma posts about their spontaneous date night at that new rooftop sushi place downtown. Quick Google search shows their tasting menu is $150 per person, not including drinks. They got the sack pairing. I know because she posted all of it on her stories. November 2023. Ryan decides he needs a more professional image for real estate. Suddenly, he's wearing a different Polo logo shirt in every photo. The same week, they're too broke to pay their water bill. Make it make sense. December 2023. They throw this massive Christmas party at their house. We're talking catered food, one of those professional light displays outside, custom cocktails, the works. Emma even hired a photographer, for a house party. Meanwhile, I'm eating microwave ramen because it's the end of the month and I just sent them their rent money. January 2024. Emma starts posting about her fitness journey. Again, new Lululemon everything. That stupid hydro rowing machine that cost more than my first car. a fridge full of those overpriced meal prep services. But God forbid they learn to budget or cook for themselves. The crazy part? I actually convinced myself this was okay. I had this whole rationalization worked out. They're just bad with money. They need guidance. Or, at least they're not in debt anymore. Spoiler, they totally still were. Or my personal favorite, they'll pay me back once Ryan's real estate career takes off. My best friend Mark, who works in fintech and has been telling me I'm an idiot since day one, actually sat me down and did the math. In 18 months, I'd given them $36,000. $36,000. That's a decent down payment on a house in some parts of Texas. That's a new car. That's that's a lot of money to give to people who are posting weekly mani-pedi updates on Instagram. But you want to know the real kicker? You know what finally made me realize how deep this money pit went? I made a spreadsheet, because of course I did, tracking their social media spending based just on what they posted publicly. In the same 18 months I'd given them $36,000, they had spent at least $4,800 on gym memberships. Both had Equinox memberships, if you know, you know. $3,000 plus on Emma's wellness treatments, whatever the hell those are. $2,400 on Ryan's golf club membership. $5,000 plus on restaurants, just the ones they posted about. $3,500 on Emma's Sephora addiction. She had their top-tier reward status. $2,900 on Ryan's work wardrobe. God knows how much on their constant weekend trips. And these are conservative estimates based only on what they publicly posted about. The real numbers were probably way higher. The worst part? Every time I'd try to bring up budgeting or financial planning, they'd get defensive. Emma would pull the, "You don't understand, we have to maintain an image for Ryan's career" card. Or my favorite, "Just because you're okay living like a college student doesn't mean everyone wants to live that way." Yeah, because living within your means is totally the same as being a broke college kid. Looking back, I realized they never saw my help as temporary. They'd built their entire lifestyle around having that extra $2,000 a month. They were counting on their rich tech brother to keep subsidizing their Instagram perfect life indefinitely. You ever have one of those moments where your whole world shifts on its axis? Like, one minute everything's normal, and the next you realize you've been living in some kind of bizarre alternate reality? Yeah, welcome to my mom's 50th birthday party. Mom had wanted a big celebration, so we rented out this cute little event space in South Congress. Nothing too fancy, but nice enough that Emma complained it wasn't Instagram worthy. Should have been my first clue for how the day would go. I'd spent the morning helping set up, making sure the catering was sorted, and testing the AV system for the slideshow I'd put together of old family photos. You know, actual useful stuff. Emma and Ryan showed up an hour late, because of course they did. They rolled up in his leased BMW, another red flag I'd been ignoring. Who leases a 540i when they can barely make rent? Emma was wearing this designer dress that still had the tags tucked in. Found that out later, she was planning to return it. And Ryan was sporting his newest real estate power look, complete with Gucci loafers. I remember thinking they looked like NPCs from a game about wealthy millennials. The party was going fine at first. Mom was happy, Dad was doing his usual, "I'm manning the grill even though we have caterers" thing, and my brother Jake was entertaining our little cousins with some TikTok dances. Normal family stuff, you know? I was mostly hanging back, nursing my beer, and trying to avoid Ryan's attempts to rope me into his latest investment opportunity. Spoiler, it was crypto. That's when I noticed my Aunt Linda giving me these weird looks across the room. Linda's always been the straight shooter in the family. She's that aunt who'll tell you if your outfit looks bad or if your boyfriend's a loser. No filter, just facts. After dinner, I was helping clean up some plates in the kitchen, because apparently I'm the only one who was raised to help at parties. When Linda cornered me, she had this look on her face like she was about to tell me someone died. "Honey," she said, checking over her shoulder to make sure we were alone, "we need to talk about Emma and Ryan." I figured she was going to lecture me about enabling their lifestyle or something. I'd gotten pretty good at deflecting those conversations. But what came next hit me like a truck. "I was at cousin Sarah's baby shower last week," Linda started, her voice low. "Emma and Ryan were there, getting pretty loose on the mimosas. They were talking about you, making jokes." My stomach did this weird flip thing. "What kind of jokes?" Linda looked physically pained. "They were calling you the rich tech nerd who was too busy with his computers to have a real life. Said you were..." She paused, clearly debating whether to continue. "They said you were such a loser that you had to buy their friendship with the monthly payments." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, but Linda wasn't done. "Emma was laughing about how you're so bad with money, because you waste it all on them. instead of getting a life. And she told everyone the money was just tech bro guilt payments because you make too much for doing nothing all day. The beer in my hand suddenly felt very heavy. Through the kitchen door, I could hear Emma's distinctive laugh. She was probably showing someone her latest Instagram photos. My ears were ringing. That's not all, Linda continued, her hand on my arm. Ryan was bragging about how they've got you wrapped around their finger. Said as long as Emma plays the helpless little sister card, you'll keep paying their bills indefinitely. I must have gone pale because Linda pushed a chair toward me. I sat down hard, my mind racing through every interaction over the past 18 months. Every thank you text, every grateful hug, every you're the best brother ever message. It had all been an act. Why are you telling me this? I managed to ask. Linda's face softened. Because you're a good kid who works hard for his money. And because I watched them take thousands of selfies tonight in front of the decorations you paid for, making fun of how you try too hard to make mom happy. Right then, Emma burst into the kitchen, already talking a mile a minute about how Ryan needed my help setting up his new crypto wallet. She stopped short when she saw my face. Everything okay? She asked, her voice dripping with that fake concern I now realized I'd been hearing for months. I looked at her, really looked at her. My sister was wearing a dress that cost more than my monthly student loan payment, holding the latest iPhone I'd convinced myself she needed for work, planning a wedding I was expected to help pay for, all while laughing at what a sucker I was. Yeah, I said, my voice steady. Everything's fine. But it wasn't fine. Not even close. As I watched Emma bounce back to the party, already posting another story about her amazing family celebration, something inside me shifted. The quiet tech nerd who always helped everyone? He was done being the family ATM. I spent the rest of the party watching them through new eyes. Every laugh felt hollow. Every hug felt fake. Every time Ryan mentioned his upcoming deals or Emma talked about their investment strategy, I felt physically ill. When they left that night, early, because they had brunch plans the next day, Emma gave me her usual, love you, bro, and Ryan did his fake punch on the arm thing. I smiled and waved goodbye. They had no idea what was coming. Here's the thing about being the tech nerd of the family. We're really good at documentation and planning and being methodical when we need to be. Emma and Ryan thought I was just some pushover who typed on keyboards all day. They were about to learn exactly what a motivated developer can do with a spreadsheet and too much cold brew coffee. The morning after Mom's party, I woke up early and did what I do best. I made a project plan. Remember that spreadsheet I mentioned earlier? Time to turn it into a weapon. I spent the entire Sunday going through 18 months of receipts, bank statements, and Venmo histories. Every single payment, every request, every emergency transfer. All of it meticulously cataloged. But the real gold mine? Social media. See, Emma and Ryan weren't just bad with money. They were compulsively public about it. They tagged every restaurant, every store, every luxury experience. They'd even enabled location sharing on most posts, so I could literally map out their spending sprees. Remember that fancy sushi dinner they had when they were too broke to pay their electric bill? Tagged with date night, luxury life, no regrets. The Gucci loafers Ryan bought instead of paying their car insurance? Posted with gotta invest in yourself 100%. I created a timeline matching their social posts against their desperate requests for money. It was actually kind of impressive how blatant it was. They'd post about booking a spa weekend, then 3 days later Emma would text me about a surprise medical bill. They'd show off their new restoration hardware furniture, then Ryan would call about being short on rent. The audacity was almost admirable. Then I did something that probably sounds petty, but turned out to be crucial. I started screen recording their Instagram stories. You know how those disappear after 24 hours? Well, not if you save them. Every humble brag, every blessed caption, every screenshot of their DoorDash orders, I kept all of it. I even made a folder of screenshots showing timestamps of when they'd post about buying luxury stuff literally hours after I'd sent them money. But here's where my inner nerd really came in handy. I built a simple program to track their posting patterns. Turns out they had a system. They'd usually ask for money on Thursdays or Fridays, right before their weekend plans. They'd wait until the money cleared, then suddenly there'd be a burst of posts about their spontaneous adventures. Like clockwork, every single time. While I was doing all this detective work, they were still living their best fake life, completely oblivious. Emma sent her usual Venmo request that Monday. $2,000 with a rent due caption. I didn't respond. Tuesday morning, another request. Hey bro, did you see my Venmo? Kind of urgent. I left it on red. By Wednesday afternoon, Emma was calling. I let it go to voicemail. She left 3 messages, each one increasingly panicked. The last one was just, "William, what the hell? We need that money." Thursday morning, I got the text I'd been waiting for. "Are you mad at me or something? Ryan says we can probably get an extension on rent, but we really need your help. Call me?" That's when I made my first move. I sent back a single screenshot, their post from Sunday showing their $500 recovery brunch at some bougie downtown restaurant, time-stamped just hours after they'd left Mom's party. No caption, no comment, just the receipt they'd proudly shared with their food blogger friends. Emma called immediately. I actually smiled when I saw her name pop up on my phone. Time to put those improv classes I took in college to good use. "Hey, Em, sorry I've been busy," I said, making sure to sound distracted. "What's up? What's with the screenshot?" she demanded. "Are you, like, stalking my Instagram or something?" "Oh, that? Just noticed you guys had a nice brunch right after asking me to cover rent again. Must have been good. $500 is a lot for eggs." The silence on the other end was beautiful. I could practically hear her trying to come up with an explanation. That was different," she finally stammered. "Ryan had some clients he needed to impress. It's business expenses." "Right," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Just like the Gucci loafers were a business expense, and the spa weekend was for networking?" Another long pause. "Who's been talking to you?" Her voice had that edge it gets when she's losing control of a situation. "Does it matter? Look, I'm having some cash flow issues right now. Might need to pause the payments for a while." "Cash flow issues?" She actually scoffed. "You make like $1 billion writing computer stuff." And there it was. The entitled attitude Linda had warned me about. The mask was already slipping. "Actually, I make $120,000 before taxes, and I've been sending you $24,000 a year. Want to do that math real quick? This isn't funny, William. We're counting on that money. We have bills to pay. Weird how you need my money so badly when you just dropped $900 on a Dyson Airwrap? Or was that for clients too?" Click. She hung up on me. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. Ryan sent a paragraph about how I was tearing the family apart. Emma switched to guilt trip mode with a photo of their past due utility bill, conveniently cropped to hide the date. Even my mom texted asking if everything was okay, because Emma was very upset. But I stayed quiet, posted nothing, said nothing, just watched as they started to realize their gravy train had hit the brakes. The best revenge plan is like good code. You set it up right, then let it run itself. And boy, was it about to run. That's when Emma deployed her nuclear option. She called our mom crying. Now, you need to understand something about our mom. She's the sweetest person alive, but she's also been enabling Emma's behavior since we were kids. If Emma was upset, it was always someone else's fault. When she maxed out her first credit card at 19, Dad was too strict with money. When she dropped out of college, her professors were against her creative spirit. Now, her terrible money habits were apparently my fault for suddenly abandoning her. Mom called me at work, which she never does. I could hear the tension in her voice immediately. "William, your sister is hysterical. She says you're refusing to help with their bills anymore? They might lose their house. First of all, it wasn't their house. It was a rental they could never afford. Second, the only thing they were at risk of losing was their luxury lifestyle. But try explaining that to a mother who's listening to her daughter sob about being homeless." "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "did Emma happen to mention that I've been giving them $2,000 every month for the past year and a half?" Silence. "Then, she said you were helping with rent sometimes." "Sometimes? Mom, I've given them $36,000. That's more than some people make in a year. And want to know what they did with it? Check Emma's Instagram." I heard her typing. My mom's not super tech savvy, but she knows how to stalk her kids on social media. I waited as she scrolled through Emma's feed. The brunches, the shopping sprees, the weekend trips, all of it meticulously documented with blessed hashtags. "Oh," she said quietly. I didn't realize." But Emma wasn't done. When Mom didn't immediately solve her problem, she started calling other family members. Aunt Linda already knew the truth, obviously, but others started getting involved. My cousin Mike texted asking if I was in some kind of trouble because Emma said I was acting erratic with money. Uncle Steve, who's some kind of financial advisor, called to offer his services because he'd heard I was struggling with fiscal responsibility. The stories Emma was spinning got wilder by the day. By the end of the week, half the family thought I was either having a mental breakdown, secretly gambling, or had joined some kind of tech cult that made me turn against my family. My brother Jake, bless his soul, just kept sending me popcorn emojis and asking if he could watch the next time it all kicked off. Then Ryan showed up at my office. I work at one of those typical tech companies in downtown Austin. You know, the kind with the cold brew on tap and beanbag chairs everywhere. I was in the middle of a code review when our receptionist pinged me on Slack. There's someone here insisting on seeing you? Says he's family? I walked into our lobby to find Ryan pacing back and forth, still wearing his realtor uniform, crisp polo, khakis, that fake Rolex he bought from his guy. He was trying to look professional, but I could see the desperation in his eyes. We need to talk, he said, trying to keep his voice down. This has gone too far. I looked at him, then at the security guard who was watching us curiously, then back at him. You came to my workplace for this? You won't answer our calls. Emma's a mess. Our rent is due in 3 days, and our electricity is about to be shut off. Weird, I said, pulling out my phone. I opened Instagram and showed him Emma's post from that morning, a mirror selfie showing off her new Lululemon haul with the caption, "Treat yourself Tuesday." His face went red. That's not what it looks like. She's trying to maintain her image for her fitness clients. Right. And I guess the $300 sushi dinner you posted about last night was for networking? He actually took a step back. Have you been stalking our social media? Stalking? Ryan, you tag the restaurants. You geotag your locations. You literally post the receipts trying to flex on people. I'm not stalking you, I'm just paying attention. That's when he switched tactics. His voice got low, almost threatening. Look, you don't want to make an enemy out of me. I know people, important people. I couldn't help it. I laughed, like actually laughed out loud. Important people? Ryan, I checked your real estate license records. You haven't closed a deal in 8 months. The only important people you know are the bartenders at that overpriced whiskey bar you can't afford. Security was definitely watching us now. Ryan noticed too, because he tried to backpedal. Just think about what you're doing to your sister, to your family. I have thought about it. I've thought about it $36,000 worth, and I'm done. I turned and walked back to the office, leaving him standing there. As the door closed behind me, I heard him call out, "This isn't over." But it was. He just didn't know it yet. After Ryan's little office visit stunt, things escalated faster than a JavaScript framework update. Mom decided we needed to have a family meeting to work things out. Those of you with dysfunctional families know exactly what that means. It's code for, let's all gather so the troublemaker can apologize, and we can go back to pretending everything's fine. Mom scheduled it for Sunday afternoon at their house. Family meetings at my parents' place always followed the same script. Everyone sits in the living room. Mom makes her special occasion coffee, just regular coffee with cinnamon, but don't tell her I said that. And Dad pretends to mediate while actually just wanting to get back to his garage projects. But this time, I came prepared. Remember that documentation I mentioned? The spreadsheets, screenshots, and records? I spent Saturday night putting together what we in tech would call a presentation deck, but was really more like a PowerPoint of receipts. I brought my laptop, an HDMI cable, always be prepared, and enough evidence to make a forensic accountant blush. I arrived early because I needed to set up. Mom looked nervous when she saw me plugging my laptop into their TV, but she just kept stress cleaning the already spotless coffee table. Dad was in his usual armchair, trying to look interested in his phone, but actually playing Candy Crush. My brother Jake showed up next, took one look at my setup and whispered, "This is gonna be good," before claiming the best seat in the house. Emma and Ryan arrived late, shocking, I know, in his BMW. Emma had clearly been crying. Her makeup was perfect, so these were definitely strategic tears. Ryan was wearing what I'd started thinking of as his serious business outfit: polo, khakis, and that embarrassing fake Rolex. They stopped short when they saw the TV screen showing my desktop background. Yes, it's still the default Windows one, don't judge me. "What's all this?" Emma demanded, already sounding defensive. "Just a little presentation," I said, opening my files. "Since we're here to talk about money, I figured some visuals might help." Mom tried to intervene. "William, I thought we were just going to talk." "Oh, we're going to talk," I said, clicking to the first slide. "Let's start with a timeline." The TV displayed a neat chart showing every payment I'd made to them over 18 months, aligned with their social media posts from the same periods. Emma's face went pale. Ryan started tugging at his collar. "In the past year and a half," I began, using my best explaining code to non-technical manager's voice, "I've given you $36,000. That's after taxes, by the way. Let's look at how that money was spent." Click. Next slide, a compilation of their Instagram stories showing expensive dinners, shopping sprees, and self-care purchases, each dated within days of my payments. Here's you guys at that new sushi place downtown, I narrated, pointing to a photo. This was 3 days after you told me you couldn't pay your electric bill. Nice steak pairing, by the way. That was a business dinner, Ryan sputtered. For clients. Click. Here's the receipt you posted, tagged as date night, with about 12 heart emojis. Weird way to label a business dinner. Emma tried to jump in. You're making us look bad on purpose. Those posts aren't telling the whole story. Click. A spreadsheet appeared, meticulous and color-coded. You're right, they're not. So I made this. Every payment you asked for, every excuse you gave, and what you actually spent the money on. See these red highlights? Those are the times you claimed it was for utilities or rent, but then posted about buying luxury items instead. This is ridiculous. Ryan stood up, his face red. You're obsessed. You've been stalking our social media like some kind of… Stalking? I interrupted, clicking to the next slide. You mean like how you check in everywhere on Instagram? Or how you tag every store you shop at? Or maybe how you literally post your receipts trying to flex on people? That kind of stalking? The room was dead silent. Jake was grinning like it was Christmas morning. Mom had her hand over her mouth. Dad had actually put down his phone. But here's the best part, I continued, clicking to a new slide. While you were spending my money on luxury goods, you were also making fun of me behind my back, calling me the rich tech nerd who had no life, making jokes about how I was buying your friendship. Remember those conversations, Emma? The ones at Cousin Sarah's baby shower? Emma's face went from pale to red. Aunt Linda, she whispered. She told you. Yeah, she did. Because unlike some people, she actually cares about family beyond what they can buy for her. Ryan tried to salvage the situation. Look, we made some jokes, okay? We were stressed about money? Stressed about money? I clicked to the final slide, a montage of their luxury purchases over the past month, after they claimed they were broke. Is that why Emma bought a new Dyson Airwrap last week? Or why you bought those Gucci loafers? Or why you're still paying for an Equinox membership? Mom finally found her voice. Emma, is this true? All of it. Emma burst into tears. Real ones this time. You don't understand. We had to maintain a certain image. Ryan's real estate career hasn't had a sale in 8 months, I finished for her. Yeah, I checked the public records. Want me to show those too? Ryan stood up so fast he knocked over his coffee. This is bull! You're trying to make us look like criminals. No, I said calmly. I'm showing everyone exactly who you are. You took advantage of my help, mocked me behind my back, and then had the audacity to act like victims when I stopped funding your fake lifestyle. That's when Dad finally spoke up, in his quiet mechanic's voice that we all knew meant serious business. Ryan, sit down. Emma, stop crying. William, show us everything. For the next hour, I walked them through it all. The payment history, the spending patterns, the social media posts, the lies. By the end, Mom was crying. Dad looked like he aged 10 years, and Jake was slow clapping in the corner. Emma and Ryan tried to leave halfway through, but Dad made them stay. You wanted a family meeting? He said. We're having one. When I finally closed my laptop, the room was silent except for Emma's sniffling. Then Mom looked at them and said something I never thought I'd hear. I'm so disappointed in both of you. That's when I knew everything had changed. It's been 3 months since the family meeting that nuked my sister's fake Instagram lifestyle, and holy hell have things changed. Grab some popcorn, because this aftermath is better than any season finale I've ever watched. Remember how Emma and Ryan were always posting about their luxury lifestyle? Well, their social media went dark immediately after the meeting, like completely silent. The constant stream of brunches, shopping hauls, and inspirational quotes just stopped. Emma's last post was literally mid-story about some overpriced juice cleanse, the internet equivalent of a ghost town. But the real changes? Those started happening about a week after the meeting. First, Ryan's BMW mysteriously disappeared from their driveway. Turns out, when you lease a luxury car and miss 3 payments, the repo guys don't care about your personal brand. He's driving a 2010 Honda Civic now. Welcome to my world, buddy. Their fancy rental house was next. Remember that $4,000 a month modern farmhouse monstrosity? Yeah, they got evicted. Not because I stopped paying. They'd actually been pocketing my rent money for months while missing payments, but because their landlord finally got tired of their excuses. The look on Ryan's face when he had to move their restoration hardware furniture into a storage unit was chef's kiss. Speaking of Ryan's real estate career, remember how I mentioned he hadn't closed a deal in 8 months? Well, someone, definitely not me, left a detailed review of his business practices on his broker's Facebook page. Suddenly, all those big deals he was always talking about evaporated. His broker pulled his license last month, citing ethical concerns. Now he's working at his uncle's car dealership in Round Rock. No more luxury real estate expert bio on LinkedIn. Emma tried to maintain her personal trainer, Josh lifestyle influencer thing for about 2 weeks after moving back in with our parents. She'd post these weird, vague motivational quotes about weathering storms and staying authentic. But it's kind of hard to sell a luxury fitness lifestyle when you're filming workout videos in your childhood bedroom. Her Equinox membership got canceled. Shocking, I know. And most of her clients jumped ship when they realized her whole image was fake. The family dynamics have been interesting. Mom went through about a week of trying to fix things before Dad finally sat her down and showed her their credit card statements. Turns out Emma had borrowed Mom's card information for some of those emergency shopping sprees. Now she's doing that quiet, disappointed thing that's somehow worse than anger. She actually made Emma get a real job. She's working as a receptionist at Dad's friend's dental office. No more flexible entrepreneur schedule. Jake, my absolute legend of a little brother, made a drinking game out of counting how many times Emma tries to blame her situation on everyone else during family dinners. Mercury isn't even in retrograde anymore, Emma. Maybe it's just consequences. I almost spit out my drink. The most satisfying part? All that designer stuff they bought trying to maintain their image? Most of it turned out to be fakes or returns they never sent back. Ryan's Rolex collection was all DH Gate specials. Emma's designer bags were mostly high-quality dupes from some sketchy website. Even their furniture was mostly Facebook Marketplace, finds they tried to pass off as new. The facade wasn't just cracking, it was completely fake to begin with. Last week, Emma tried one last time to fix things. She showed up at my apartment, yeah, the same sad little apartment she used to make fun of, with tears in her eyes, and a speech about how she'd learned her lesson. She talked about therapy and personal growth and understanding the value of money now. I listened to her whole speech. Then I showed her something I'd been saving. Screenshots of her messages to our cousins from just 2 weeks ago, still talking trash about me and planning how to get back on my good side so the money would start flowing again. Her face when she realized I could still see the family group chat? Priceless. Emma, I said, I don't need you to act sorry. I need you to actually change. And until that happens, we're done. She left crying. Real tears this time, not the strategic ones she used to use. As for me, life's pretty good. That house down payment fund I mentioned? It's growing again. I upgraded my gaming PC. Finally got that 4090, worth every penny. I'm taking actual vacations now. Writing this from a coffee shop in Tokyo, actually. Turns out not bankrolling someone else's fake lifestyle leaves you with a lot of disposable income. Mom still occasionally tries to bridge the gap, but even she admits things are better this way. Dad's actually started asking me for financial advice, which is both weird and kind of awesome. And Jake? He's thinking about learning to code. Apparently watching his big brother destroy 2 lives with PowerPoint inspired him. The best part? I ran into Ryan at HEB last week. He was wearing a polo with the car dealership logo and looking at the clearance items. When he saw me, he literally turned around and walked the other way. Guess that Gucci loafer's on the other foot now, huh? Final update. Since so many people asked, yes, I'm doing much better mentally now that I'm not carrying their financial burden. Therapy and weightlifting help a lot. And before anyone else asks, yes, my company is hiring. And no, I can't refer you. But maybe learn to code? It worked out pretty well for me. Story 6. At 16, my mom sent me to a behavioral rehab because my brother faked a bruise and called me violent. 2 years later, his lies fell apart. He was caught stealing. My dad finally confessed he knew the truth, and my mom's breakdown made headlines. Hey Reddit, my family spent years calling me the problem. They lied, twisted everything, and finally sent me away to fix me. I kept quiet, built my own life, and thought I was free, until their whole act started falling apart. But first, here's how it really started. I'm Isaac, 16. I live in a house that looks perfect if you drive by too quick. My mom, Clara, calls it her safe space. The lawn's always cut straight, curtains always match, even the mailbox gets wiped down. Inside, though, everything feels like it could explode over the smallest thing. Dad, Tom, travels most weeks. When he's home, he camps out in his office pretending to work. He's good at nodding without listening. Mom says he's the steady one, but that's only because he never takes a side. Then there's my brother, Ryan, 13, baby face, fake innocence, full-time tattletale. He figured out early that acting scared of me gets him out of trouble. I could breathe too loud and he'd say I was mad again. Mom would scold me before even asking what happened. Every morning, Mom starts with her checklist voice. Shoes by the door, dishes away, no crumbs on the counter. She's not mean at first, just exact, but the tone changes fast if you don't follow the script. She keeps a whiteboard in the kitchen with house standards. That's what she calls rules. Each one has a check mark next to it if you did good that day. She says it teaches accountability. I say nothing, because talking back just adds a red X beside my name. We go to church every Sunday. Ryan plays the angel. People love him there. Mom beams when someone says, "You've raised such polite boys." She doesn't look at me when they say it. School's no break. Teachers label me as having an attitude problem. Apparently asking why a rule exists means you're disrespectful. So I keep quiet. I get decent grades, not great ones, because I'm tired of hearing Mom say, "You could do better if you focused like your brother." Mrs. Heller, our next-door neighbor, doesn't help. She's the kind who waters her plants just to spy. She tells Mom she's concerned about me, says I look angry when I walk home from school. Mom eats that up. After one of those talks, I came home to find my door open and my stuff rearranged. She said she was checking for cigarettes. I don't even smoke. That night, I started locking my phone in a shoebox under my bed. She'd already gone through it once, saying she was making sure you're not getting into the wrong influences. The house runs on surveillance, cameras in the living room for insurance, door codes that Mom changes monthly. She calls it responsible parenting. I call it paranoia. I keep my sanity by fixing my old bike. There's something about tightening bolts and hearing the click of gears that makes sense. Machines don't lie about what's wrong with them. Ryan likes to watch me from the porch. He'll smile like we're good brothers, then say something like, "Mom said you're not supposed to use the tools without asking." Then he'll run inside before I can answer. 10 minutes later, Mom's at the door saying, "What did I tell you about respecting house property?" When Dad left for another trip later that week, Ryan started bragging about his new privileges. Mom gave him access to the home tablet and told him he could help track chores. Basically, he got promoted to spy. I tried to talk to Mom about it once. I said, "I feel like you believe him no matter what he says." She said, "Then maybe stop giving him reasons to worry." That was the whole conversation. By Friday, the air in the house felt heavy. Even the lights seemed too bright. Ryan was testing me, breaking little things. A picture frame, a phone charger, then whispering, "Mom's gonna blame you." He wasn't wrong. That night, after everyone went to bed, I walked into the hallway for water. I heard my parents' door cracked open. Mom's voice was sharp, low. "He's going to ruin everything we've built." Dad's reply came muffled. "He's just a kid." "No," she said. "He's a problem." I stood there, still, until the floor creaked. The voices stopped. I went back to my room and lay there, staring at the ceiling fan. It buzzed faintly, off balance. I thought about how even something perfectly installed can shake itself loose if it spins too long. That's what the house felt like. Everything spinning, pretending it was under control. The week started off tense. Nobody said it out loud, but the house felt like it was waiting for someone to mess up. Mom was pacing more than usual, her lips tight, her eyes darting around like she was looking for something out of place. Dad stayed late at work every night, claiming extra meetings. Ryan was grinning too much, that fake calm before he pulled something. Wednesday afternoon, Mom was in her office finishing a presentation for her job. Ryan was hovering behind her, pretending to help. 10 minutes later, I heard her scream. The kind of scream that makes your stomach drop. I ran in and saw her clutching her laptop, eyes wild. "It's gone! The file's gone!" she shouted. Ryan stepped back, hands up. "Isaac used the computer earlier," he said quickly. That wasn't true. I hadn't touched it, but she spun toward me before I could speak. "You did this, didn't you? You can't stand to see anyone else succeed." I said, "I didn't even open your laptop." She pointed at me like she was addressing a criminal. "You think this is funny? I have a deadline." Dad walked in halfway through and just sighed. "Can we not?" he said. Mom ignored him and yelled, "You're sabotaging me." I stood there, hands open. "Check the history," I said. "You'll see I wasn't even logged in." She didn't check anything. She just slammed the laptop shut and stormed off. Later, I heard her tell Dad autosave brought it back. The trash showed it was renamed and deleted while Ryan was helping. Dinner that night was a minefield. Ryan kept poking at me under the table, whispering, "Maybe don't touch Mom's stuff next time." I told him to stop. Mom looked up from her plate. "Don't start." I wasn't starting. I barely said anything. She nitpicked everything I did. How I chewed, how I breathed, how I looked checked out. Dad stared at his food like he wanted to disappear. When Mom's phone buzzed, she read something, frowned, and muttered, "Unbelievable." She put the phone down hard. "Your teacher emailed me," she said. "Apparently, you're being disrespectful again. Non-cooperative. Is this true?" I said. I didn't say anything disrespectful. I just asked. She cut me off. You just can't stop talking back, can you? Dad rubbed his forehead. Isaac, you gotta stop making everything harder than it is. Just do what you're told. I said, I'm not doing anything wrong. He snapped, then get serious or get out. I felt the air leave my chest. Ryan leaned back in his chair like he was watching a show. Mom said, that's enough. Go to your room. I'm done. I stood up but stayed there, trying to find the right words. I said, you don't even listen anymore. She said, because I'm tired of the lies. Ryan had his phone half hidden, recording. I saw the reflection in the glass cabinet. He wanted proof of me losing it. I took one step closer to the counter and slammed my hand on it. The sound echoed. Nobody listens, I said. My voice cracked halfway through. I wasn't yelling threats. I was just tired. Ryan jumped up, bolted for the stairs, and yelled, he hit me! Mom gasped and ran after him. I followed a few seconds later. She was in his room, holding him while he pretended to cry. His gaming monitor was on the floor, cracked through the middle. He had one hand on his shoulder, red like he'd rubbed it hard. He grabbed me and threw it, Ryan said, between fake sobs. Mom looked back at me like I'd pulled a knife. You did this? She asked. I said, no, I didn't touch him. She didn't blink. You stay right there, she said, voice low and sharp. Don't move. Dad came running up, looked at the monitor, then at me. What the hell happened? I said, ask him. He broke it earlier. Ryan said, he's lying. He freaked out. Mom didn't ask for more details. She pulled out her phone and said she was calling the police for safety. I said, are you serious? When the officers showed up, everything slowed down. They asked questions, looked around, saw no real injuries. Ryan kept sniffling in his mother's arms. I stood by the wall, numb. One of the cops asked if I wanted to go somewhere else for the night. I said no. He nodded, told Mom there wasn't much they could do. When they left, the silence was worse than the shouting. Mom said, you need help. This can't go on. I said, I didn't hurt him. She said, that's exactly what someone in denial says. Dad started packing a small bag with my clothes. I asked where I was going. He said, just do what your mother says. It's for the best. I didn't argue anymore. The next morning, Mom was already dressed, car keys in hand. She said, we're taking you to a program. A good one. They help families like ours. She made it sound like a vacation. Dad carried the bag. Ryan sat at the bottom of the stairs with cereal and that same small smirk he always got when things went his way. I walked out without looking at him. In the car, Mom talked about healing and starting over. Her voice was calm, almost cheerful, like she'd solved a big problem. I looked out the window. The houses slid past. Perfect lawns, clean driveways, families who probably thought we were normal. I didn't say a word the whole ride. I kept thinking, this isn't help. It's cleanup. They weren't saving me. They were getting rid of me. The place they took me to was called Ridgeway Youth Recovery Center. The sign out front had a tree logo and the slogan, Rebuilding Futures. It looked like a school from the outside. Brick walls, trimmed grass, big windows. But when the doors closed behind me, it sounded like a lock clicking. A staff member with a plastic smile took my bag. Welcome to Ridgeway, she said. Her name tag said Angela, but she said it like she was reading a line from a brochure. I had to empty my pockets, hand over my phone, belt, shoelaces, even my earbuds. They gave me a clear plastic bag with a toothbrush, 2 shirts with Ridgeway printed on the back, and plain gray sweats. Everything had a number tag. Mine was 47B. Then came the metal detector and a checklist about contraband. The staff acted polite but had that fake tone people use when they already know you don't belong. Intake took about an hour. Forms, signatures, a bored nurse reading the script. They moved me through like a fast track they'd run 100 times. The hall smelled like bleach and cafeteria food. My room had 2 metal bunks, a small window too high to reach, and a cracked dresser. My bunkmates came in later. Marcus, 17, tall, sarcastic smile, and Luis, 15, quiet, small build, dark circles under his eyes. Marcus tossed his bag on the bed and said, You the new kid? Welcome to Ridgeway High School for the morally confused? I asked how long he'd been here. He grinned. Too long to still care. Luis barely looked up. He was writing something in a notebook. Every night, I'd later learn, he wrote letters to his little sister. He said she was the only one who still believed he'd come home soon. The first night was lights out at 9. A guard did rounds every hour, flashlight beams sweeping the walls. You weren't allowed to close the door all the way. Morning started with a bell at 6. Breakfast was powdered eggs, toast, and milk that tasted like plastic. Then group therapy. Group therapy was in a circle of plastic chairs under a poster that said, "Own your harm, find your peace." The counselor, Ms. Denning, talked like a podcast host. "Accountability is healing," she said. Each kid had to explain what they did wrong. When it was my turn, I said, "I didn't hurt anyone." My brother lied. She smiled too wide. "Denial is common at this stage. You'll get there." I said, "There's nothing to get to." She wrote something on her clipboard. "Resistance needs structured empathy." After that, I stopped sharing. Marcus warned me later, "If you don't say sorry, they keep you longer." He'd learned to fake it. "You just tell them you understand your triggers and cry a little," he said. "Then they call you cured." Luis whispered, "It doesn't matter. They already wrote our stories." Days blurred. Breakfast, chores, therapy, worksheets about anger cycles, lights out. Same thing every day. Talking got you nowhere. I started working out in the mornings, push-ups, sit-ups, laps in the hallway. It helped me stay quiet. We weren't supposed to write anything that wasn't program approved, but I kept a small notebook under my mattress. I wrote short lines, not diary stuff, just facts. Day 9. Counselor says lying is a defense mechanism. I said silence is too. Day 14. Marcus laughed at breakfast for the first time. Day 20. Luis said he dreams of home every night. I don't. 2 months in, Mom visited. The staff arranged the room to look cozy. Plants, cookies, fake warmth. She hugged me like someone posing for a photo. "You look calmer," she said. I said, "I was calm before." She smiled tight. "See? That's the attitude we're fixing." She talked to the counselor afterward, praising Ridgway for turning him around. I heard her laugh down the hallway. I didn't feel angry, just empty. After that, I didn't see her again. Marcus kept things bearable. He'd joke about the group leaders, call them the emotion police. But at night, when lights went off, he talked quieter. "You know why you're here?" he said once. "Not because of what you did, because they needed to believe they handled it." It's easier to say, "My son's getting help," than "We screwed him over." Luis nodded from the other bunk. Better a rehab kid than a broken family. I didn't answer. I just wrote it down later. After 6 months, they said I was ready for release. I hadn't admitted harm, but I'd been quiet, followed rules, and didn't fight. That was enough. They told me I'd made significant progress. At Ridgway, checked boxes beat confessions. Compliance looked like healing on paper. The night before I left, Marcus walked with me to the gate after lights out. The sky outside the barred window looked huge, empty. He said, "When you get out, don't expect a new family waiting. Expect the same one, just quieter." I said, "I know." And in the morning, they gave me my phone back. Dead battery, no messages. A staff member handed me a packet labeled Home Transition Plan. It said things like, "Be honest about your progress and practice patience with family reintegration." Dad was waiting in the car outside. He didn't get out, just nodded when I opened the door. The drive home was silent except for the GPS voice. Dad cleared his throat once, said, "Your mom's been worried sick." I looked out the window. I thought about what Marcus said, how people prefer a neat story to the messy truth. I wondered how you talk to people who've already decided who you are. When we pulled into the driveway, Mom's flowers were still lined up perfect, bright against the clean bricks. It looked like nothing had changed. And somehow, that felt worse than if everything had. The first thing I noticed when I walked back into the house was the smell. Same candles, same floor polish, same fake sense of calm. Mom, Clara, was in the kitchen wearing her "everything's fine" smile. A tray of cookies sat on the counter, just like when guests come over. She said, "Welcome home," like she was greeting a neighbor. Ryan came down the stairs, grinning wide. "Hey, big bro," he said. He looked older somehow, confident. His hair was styled, his clothes new. There was a new gaming setup in the living room, too. Big monitor, LED lights, brand new chair. Dad stood in the corner with his phone half in his hand. He gave me a quick pat on the shoulder. "We all make mistakes," he said, like he was reading a quote from somewhere. My old room was gone. They'd turned it into a guest room. Fresh paint, decorative pillows, no trace of me. My stuff was packed into boxes in the garage, labeled Isaac's Old Things. That night, we had dinner like it was a holiday. Mom asked surface questions. "Do they feed you well there? Did you learn anything helpful?" I said yes, just to keep it short. Ryan kept looking at me between bites, like he was waiting for me to slip. The next morning, I found a note taped to the fridge. House Guidelines for Reintegration. It had bullet points like respect space, communicate calmly, demonstrate trustworthiness. It wasn't signed, but the handwriting was Mom's. School wasn't any better. The first day back, people stared like I was a new exhibit. Whispers followed me from the lockers to class. Someone said, "That's the kid who hit his brother." I heard it enough times that I stopped pretending I didn't. One teacher, Mr. Collins, pulled me aside after class. "I hope you're doing better now," he said, slow and careful, like talking to a recovering addict. I said, "Yeah, that was it." By the end of the week, I heard Ryan was telling people he'd forgiven me. A classmate said, "That's really mature of your brother." I laughed once, hard, then stopped. At home, Mom treated me like a guest on probation. She'd say things like, "It's nice to see you trying," or "I hope this calm version of you lasts." If I forgot to close a cabinet or left a light on, she'd pause, breathe through her nose, and say, "Let's not slip back into old habits." Dad avoided any real talk. He'd just say, "We're proud of you," without looking up from his phone. Ryan liked to test me. He'd borrow my headphones and forget to return them. Once I caught him in the garage digging through my boxes. "Just looking for my old stuff," he said. He smirked and left a comic book half torn on the floor. I didn't react. I knew he wanted me to. After 2 weeks, I found a part-time job at a local auto shop. The owner, Rick, was in his 40s, bald, heavy hands, no small talk. He said, "You work, you get paid. Don't screw around." That was fine with me. The place smelled like oil and metal, and the noise of tools was constant but comforting. Machines didn't ask questions. Rick taught me how to change brakes, how to read engine sounds. He didn't care about my story. One day, when I asked if he needed my ID for the paperwork, he said, "Just show up on time." That's ID enough. For the first time in months, I felt normal. I liked how Grease stayed honest. It didn't hide what it was. Back home, nothing had changed. Mom still avoided eye contact. Ryan kept finding new ways to poke. He'd step into my room, well, the guest room, and say, "You don't mind if I use your old charger, right?" I'd say, "Yeah, I mind," and he'd grin. Dinner conversations were short. Mom asked about work. Dad commented about the weather. Ryan bragged about grades, friends, everything. He was the perfect kid again. One night, I got home late after a shift. They were in the living room, watching TV. Ryan muted it and said, "Working hard? That place must be teaching you discipline." Mom smiled faintly. "See? Positive structure works." I went upstairs without answering. The next day, I came home early and heard Ryan talking on his phone in his room. His voice carried down the hall. "He's calm now because they fixed him," he said, laughing. "Yeah, it worked. He barely talks. He's like a robot now." I stood by the door until I heard him say, "Mom said she's proud of how I handled everything. Guess I'm the reason things are better." His friend laughed. Ryan said, "Yeah, I know. I'm basically the reason our family's okay." I walked out the front door before I could say anything. The air outside was cold enough to sting. I sat on the curb across the street. The neighborhood was quiet. Sprinklers running, porch lights glowing, perfect little lives. I thought about how Mom said they'd fixed me. What they really meant was I'd stopped fighting back. Silence was what they wanted, and I'd finally given it to them. A car passed, headlights sweeping across my face. I didn't move. I stayed until the street went dark again. The next morning, I opened a teen account at the credit union near the shop with my state ID. I deposited my first paycheck. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know what I was saving for exactly. Maybe a car, maybe a room far away, but it felt good knowing I had something that was mine again. Something nobody could take or twist into their story. I kept the receipts folded in my wallet. Each one felt like a small piece of freedom. Ryan had gotten cocky since I came back. At first, it was small things. Taking my stuff, lying about it, laughing when I caught him. Then it turned into something else. I started noticing money missing from Mom's purse. Small things disappearing from drawers. When Mom noticed, she didn't even ask him. She asked me. "I know you've been trying," she said one night, voice calm but sharp around the edges. "But old habits don't vanish overnight." I said, "You think I stole $20?" She sighed. "I didn't say that." Ryan walked by, eating chips, pretending not to listen. I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. The next morning, she found her watch gone. She accused me again. That evening, Ryan posted a story online saying, "When toxic people play the victim, it's just sad." He tagged a quote about recovery not being real for everyone. A few kids from school reshared it. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. People believe what they want. He liked that silence. He'd hover by me at breakfast and say, "You gonna yell this time? Or are you gonna do that quiet, angry thing?" I didn't answer. I just grabbed my bag and left for the shop. At work, Rick kept me busy. Grease, tools, customers who complained about noises their cars didn't make. It was simple and honest. Rick didn't talk much, but when he did, it stuck. Family can make you crazy, he said one afternoon while tightening a bolt. They build a picture in their heads, and then they get mad when you don't fit in it. I said, they think they fixed me. Rick snorted. People like control. You stopped giving them the reaction they wanted. That's what's really driving them nuts. At home, things were unraveling. Ryan's lies were catching up. One of his teachers called Mom because he was caught plagiarizing an essay. She told them he was under stress from family issues. When I walked in that night, she was crying in the kitchen. Ryan had disappeared with her debit card for a few hours. When he came back, he said he needed space and slammed his door. She turned to me like it was my fault. Can't you try to be supportive? He's still healing from what happened with you. I said, he's not healing. He's manipulating you. Her eyes went cold. Don't project your issues onto him. I stopped trying to explain. Silence was easier. It bothered her more anyway. 2 days later, everything blew up. I was under a car at the shop when I heard shouting out front. Rick called my name. You better come out here. Mom was standing by the counter, red-faced, gripping her purse like she might swing it. You need to stop enabling my son, she said to Rick. He's supposed to be in recovery, not hiding in garages. Rick wiped his hands, calm as ever. He's working, ma'am. Harder than most adults I know. She pointed at me. You don't understand. He has violent tendencies. He needs supervision. He's manipulating you. Rick stepped closer, voice low but solid. Lady, the only one yelling here is you. My shop's for work, not whatever this is. She glared, shaking. You'll regret protecting him. Rick nodded toward the door. Then you can take that energy somewhere else. Out she froze for a second, like she couldn't believe someone talked back to her, then turned and stormed off. I didn't say a word. That night she was waiting when I got home. The lights were off except for the one over the dining table. She stood there with her arms crossed. How dare you humiliate me like that, she said. Marching in there, yelling at my boss was your idea? I didn't do anything, I said. You made me look insane in front of a stranger. I said, you didn't need my help for that. Her voice broke into a shout. You think you're better than this family now? You think you can just walk around pretending you're fixed while the rest of us suffer? Ryan came downstairs, pretending to mediate. Mom, calm down. He's doing that thing again. You're scaring her, Isaac. I turned to him. You started this. Mom stepped between us. Don't you raise your voice. I didn't. See? Ryan said. He's doing it again. Something in her snapped. She slapped me. The sound hit harder than the sting. She froze, hand trembling. Ryan smirked behind her. I straightened up. My voice was flat. You need help more than I ever did. Dad appeared from the hallway, half awake, half useless. He looked between us, said nothing, and walked into the kitchen. The silence that followed was worse than shouting. I went upstairs and packed my bag. Just clothes, my wallet, a few tools from the shop. I wrote a note on the back of an envelope. I'm not angry, just done. When I came back down, she was sitting at the table crying without sound. Ryan leaned on the wall, arms crossed, still playing the innocent. I didn't say anything. I walked out the door. Outside, the night was cool and quiet. The streetlights buzzed. As I passed the next house, Mrs. Heller was on her porch watering her plants even though it was dark. She saw me with the bag and said, Good riddance. I stopped for a second, looked at her. Yeah, I said, half smiling. You'll see. Then I kept walking. Well, the room above Rick's garage wasn't much, but it was mine. It smelled like oil and metal, and the floor creaked when the wind shifted. I finished my GED through night classes at the community center. Nobody at home asked about school anyway. Rick cleared it with the landlord. As long as the rent showed up and the fire extinguisher tags were current, nobody asked my age. I worked long hours at the shop. Rick paid me cash at first, then started putting me on the books. He gave me a key to the garage and said, Lock up when you're done. Don't burn the place down. That was his version of trust. Nights were quiet. I'd sit by the window with my laptop, typing. At first, it was just notes. Memories from Ridgeway, the fake smiles, the scripted therapy lines. Then I started posting them online under an anonymous account called The Ones They Fixed. The first post read, I was sent away for something I didn't do. They said it was recovery. It was punishment. People started commenting. Some said they'd been there too. One person mentioned the same counselor. Another shared photos of the dorms. Within a week, I got dozens of messages, kids, parents, even a journalist asking for details. I didn't give my name or location. I just kept posting. Someone eventually dropped a link to an article from 2 years back. Ridgeway Youth Recovery under investigation for unethical practices. It mentioned the same counselors, the same methods. It said the place was run by a company that rebranded every few years under new names. Rick found me one evening still typing when he came up to check the heater. You doing homework or starting a war? He asked. Just writing. He nodded, looked around. Good. Just make sure you build something out of it. Don't let it eat you. A few weeks later, one of my posts got reposted on a big forum. The comments exploded. Other families started recognizing the name Ridgeway. The local news picked it up. Small story, but enough to stir things up. They called it Rehab or Rebrand, the hidden industry of behavioral programs. I didn't say a word publicly. I didn't have to. The story spoke for itself. Then my phone rang one afternoon. Mom. The moment I answered, her voice was shaking. Do you have any idea what you're doing? You're ruining this family, I said. You mean telling the truth? You're making us look insane. Your brother is suffering because of this. You're dragging his name through the mud. I said, he dragged mine first. She started to cry, then switched to anger. You've always wanted attention? Now you've got it. I hung up. Time passed faster after that. I turned 18, got my license, and Rick handed me the keys to an old pickup. It's yours if you can fix it, he said. Took me 2 weeks to get it running. It wasn't pretty, but it started every time. That was more than I could say for most things in my life. Work stayed steady. The account kept growing. I never posted names, but people connected dots on their own. Some nights I'd check the comments and see strangers defending kids like me. That felt new. Then the phone calls started. First from Mom again, this time shorter. Your brother's been suspended. She said it like it was my fault. He was caught stealing money from classmates. He says it's because you filled his head with resentment. I said, he's just getting caught for what he's always done. She said, don't you dare talk about him that way. He's still your brother. I know, I said. That's the problem. A week later, Dad called. His voice was quiet, tired. We need to talk, he said. I met him halfway, outside a diner parking lot. He didn't get out of the car, just rolled the window down halfway. I saw Ryan break that monitor, he said. The night everything went down. He was scared, and I didn't say anything. I thought it'd keep the peace. I leaned on the window frame. You let them send me away to keep the peace. He looked down at the steering wheel. I'm sorry. I pulled out my phone, started recording. Say it again. He hesitated. Isaac, say it. I'm sorry. I stopped recording. I don't need your guilt, I said, and walked away. I never posted it. The next month, Ryan got caught shoplifting from a convenience store. Security footage, police, everything. Mom showed up at the station screaming that he was a good boy, and it was all a misunderstanding. It made the local paper. Small piece, back section. Rick handed it to me at work, smirking. Guess karma's got better timing than most people. I didn't smile, but I felt something close. Later that night, I sat on the truck bed outside the garage. The air smelled like oil and rain. I opened my phone, scrolled through the news comments, and saw people talking about Ridgeway again, this time linking it to families like mine. Somewhere between the noise and the silence, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. Just done. The truth was finally louder than their version. For the first time, that felt like enough. It had been months since I'd heard from any of them. The last thing Mom said was that I'd destroyed the family. After that, silence. I kept working, fixing cars, saving money, and not thinking about them. Then one night, near closing time, I heard knocking on the garage door. I opened it and saw Ryan. He looked wrecked. Same hoodie he used to brag about, now torn and dirty. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept in days. Mom kicked me out, he said, voice flat. I leaned against the counter. Why? She lost it. Said I embarrassed her. Said I turned out just like you. He gave a dry laugh that turned into a cough. Guess she finally ran out of people to blame. I handed him a bottle of water and a towel. He sat on a stool, shaking. After a minute, he said, I lied, Isaac. That night. I made it all up. I didn't say anything. I wanted her to look at me. That's all. The bruise wasn't even from you. I fell off my bike earlier that week. I knew she'd believe it. He rubbed his hands over his face. I didn't think they'd actually send you away. You did, I said quietly. He started crying, full breakdown. I didn't know how to stop it. Every time she talked about you, she looked at me like I saved her. I liked it. I just kept going. I didn't feel anger, just distance. I handed him another bottle of water. Tell her, not me. He looked up, confused. She won't listen. That's your problem now. He left a few minutes later, wiping his face. I watched him walk down the street, shoulders hunched, like the air itself was too heavy. I went back inside, locked the door, and kept working. The wrench in my hand felt solid, familiar, real. A few weeks passed, Then a letter came in the mail, addressed in Dad's handwriting. I opened it halfway, then stopped. I skimmed the first paragraph and didn't bother finishing. It said, Clara's having a breakdown. Ryan's in therapy. I'm leaving town. I'm sorry for what we did to you. I folded it once, dropped it in a drawer, and never opened it again. 2 years later, I was 20 and running my own corner of the shop. Rick had semi-retired and let me handle most of the day-to-day work. He put me on the books and let me invoice my bays under my own DBA, Isaac Reed Auto Repair. Business was steady. I had a small apartment over a bakery across town, plain but quiet. I worked 6 days a week, fixed what was broken, and didn't look back. Rick stopped by sometimes. He'd drop a coffee on the counter and say, "You're doing fine, kid." That was his version of proud. I'd hear about my family in pieces. A customer mentioned a woman named Clara who'd started showing up at church ranting about betrayal. Another said Ryan was living with relatives upstate, in and out of therapy, trying to find himself. Apparently, Mom had tried to sue the school district for ruining Ryan's reputation after his shoplifting arrest. It went nowhere. She'd burned too many bridges. Mrs. Heller brings her Corolla in sometimes. She told Rick once, "That poor woman finally lost her mind." I didn't laugh. It just felt like the story closing itself without me in it. One morning, I walked into the shop early. Sunlight hit the metal racks, making the wrenches gleam. My phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. The message read, "I told her everything. I'm sorry." I didn't need to ask who it was. Ryan. I stared at the screen for a while. I typed a few words, deleted them, then set the phone down. I didn't feel angry or satisfied, just quiet. Outside, the morning was cool. The street was empty except for the sound of a delivery truck down the block. I stepped out to the parking lot, leaned on the hood of an old pickup I'd been working on. I pulled the wrench from my back pocket, the same one Rick gave me years ago when I first started. The metal was worn smooth from use. It caught the sunlight and threw a sharp line across the ground. For a second, I thought about how everything I'd fixed over the years had one thing in common. Nothing ever went back exactly the way it was before. You could repair it, make it work again, but the break was still there, even if no one could see it. I looked back at the shop, the open bay door, the noise of a new day starting. Some things don't get fixed. You just learn to live without their noise. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.